2020. It's a few minutes after 6 p.m. We'll now have the invocation led by Mr. Randy DeLapp. Everybody stand. Please.
Please bow. Let us pray. Holy One, we ask for your blessing for the people who have been called to lead our parish. Help us as leaders to not ask first, how do we fix this, but what do we need to learn? How might we change, and to whom do we listen to? Remind us, because we all forget from time to time, that we are not only leaders, but also servants, whose responsibility is to serve the common good of all. Remind us that no matter where we live, in those who live alone, they will not be forgotten. May we speak out when it's time to speak, and listen when it's time to listen. May we always be guided by the spirit of justice and the spirit of compassion, but most of all, the Spirit of God, the Father and Son, with the Holy Spirit. This we pray in the name of all that is sacred and holy. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Scooter, you want to lead us in the pledge?
Yes, sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Roll call. Roll call.
Mr. DeLapp.
Here.
Mr. McMorris.
Here.
Mr. Harris.
Here.
Mr. Roundhouse.
Here.
Mr. Orr. Mr. King.
Here.
Mr. Watson.
Here.
Mr. Talbot.
Here.
Mr. Mack.
Here.
And so Mr. Ward is here.
He
He's not
is.
here right now, so you
He
go.
is. All right, and so now we're going to talk about cell phones. We're going to ask that everybody silence their cell phones so that we don't have any interruptions during the meeting. Appreciate everybody. Public input. Anyone wishing to address or express, public input, certainly welcome to do so. We welcome that. When the agenda item that you would like to talk about comes up, all you have to do is simply raise your hand. And, we'll call upon you, in orderly fashion, and you can come up here to the podium and state your name and address, and we'll give you, your time to talk and help us solve our community problems. So appreciate y'all showing up tonight. All right, agenda item number 7. Now this is going to be presentations. Mr. Alan Bourne, he's a candidate in the runoff race for Public Service Commissioner, is here to give a presentation. Just come on up, Mr. Allen, and talk right there into the podium there. And you got the floor.
Great. Well, I want to thank the Livingston Parish Council for giving me a chance to say a few words this evening. My name is Alan Bourne, and I'm running for the Public Service Commission in this runoff. A little bit about me. I was born in New Orleans and raised in Metairie, Louisiana. I attended De La Salle High School, and after high school I went to Southern Missionary College in Tennessee, where I received my business degree. I returned to Tulane Law School in New Orleans and graduated in 1984. In 1985, I founded Bourne Law Firm and have been fighting for the rights of my clients for the past 35 years. I'd like to take those advocacy skills now to the Public Service Commission and advocate for the hardworking families of Louisiana to assure that they have reliable, sustainable, and low-cost utilities. The Public Service Commission is a commission that a lot of people don't know about, yet it spends millions and billions of dollars over the course of the years that affect the ratepayers and the citizens and the consumers of Louisiana. It's a commission that governs your utilities, trucking, pipelines, cell phones, telecommunications. So it's a very important position, and what I have committed to on the Public Service Commission is that I am not going to take contributions from utility companies that I regulate. I feel that you can't do that and do it fairly. My opponent, Mr. Scametta, has taken hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years from the utility companies. And it just, common sense says that you can't be fair when you're receiving that much money. The utility companies are monopolies. And they were founded that way to get electricity 100 years ago, to get electricity to everybody in rural areas and in city areas, and it worked. We got electrified. But they are monopolies and they need to be regulated. And that's the job of the Public Service Commission, is to regulate on behalf of the consumer, to control the monopolies and make sure they don't have abuses. We control their rates, make sure they get a reasonable rate of return, but only a reasonable rate. They don't do an excessive rate of return. Part of my agenda is rural internet. While the internet is not directly under the jurisdiction of the Public Service Commission at this time, I think it should be, because I think it's a utility. It's not a luxury, it's a necessity anymore, because we have education now with this COVID virus. We have kids learning at home. We have telemedicine. That's getting more and more. The doctors are treating people right on the internet. And of course, equal opportunity for jobs. There's so many jobs that we work at home. So it's important that underserved and rural areas get good internet. The other thing is keeping the cost of electricity low. That's a prime example. Right now we have record low natural gas and we have record low rates. But that could change as the price of fuel fluctuates. I'm a big proponent of alternative energies. Now, Louisiana is an oil and gas state. It got us to where we are today, and I appreciate that. But as we transition into the future with new technologies such as solar and wind power, the cost is coming down, the efficiency is going up, and pretty soon, not only, it's already getting competitive with fossil fuels, it's going to surpass it, because guess what? The price of sunshine does not fluctuate. It's the same every day when you walk outside. So I'm a strong believer in solar and wind energy as these utility plants age out, as they are now. Some of them are still coal-fired. We have natural gas, which is much cleaner than coal, and then of course solar is much cleaner than it all, because there's really no pollution. But as they age out, we have an opportunity to rebuild with solar plants. And I'm a big advocate of that. So that's my platform. I'm for the consumer. I'm for transparency. I'm for fairness. I'm for open door, that anybody at any time can come speak to me on the commission. And I'm for openness, meaning that there's not going to be any backroom deals. There will always be third parties present when I'm talking to anybody from any side of an issue. And that's my promise. The early voting starts November 20th through 28th. Election day is December 5th, and I ask humbly for the vote of the people of Livingston Parish for Alan Bourne, number 63 on the ballot. Thanks, and if anybody has any questions, I'll be glad to ask.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Randy.
I have a few questions, but the first one you answered in detail, and I like what you said about it. Rural internet, very important to us, and you had all the right answers for that. I got a couple of questions. I'll start off with a little easy one. Have you run for office before?
I have. I ran for the state senate
Okay.
and did not win.
Okay. Have you represented any corporations in your practice?
Basically not. I'm more of a neighborhood attorney. I mean, small corporations like mom and pop corporations, like grocery stores and things like that, but no large corporations.
Okay. And will you allow long-term fuel contracts to be signed for 20 or 25 years?
Long-term contracts, I'm a consumer advocate, and we want to keep the prices low. When you say long-term contracts, right now we're at the cusp of going into new technologies. These plants that they build last for 20 or 30 years. So we're committed to the plants that we already have, but as they age out, we want to try to get newer, cleaner energy for the people, because global warming is not a hoax. We've had 5 hurricanes in Louisiana so far this year, and there's one bouncing around out there right now.
Are you familiar with the term? It was called the Old Sugar Bowl Agreement for fuel, for natural gas to chemical plants.
I'm sorry, but I cannot say that I am familiar with that term.
Since that contract has run out, fuel had went up substantially. Now that fuel's back down, there's a chance for the raise to sign long-term contracts to keep fuel at a lower cost.
So, again, I am a consumer advocate. Low cost for the consumer is important. A lot of people in this district and in this state pay 20% of their income for utilities. So we have to keep it low, so everyone can afford to have the utility. Yes, I would support, because we have these gas plants and we're gonna have them for a while. As I'd say, we transition maybe into solar, but we're already committed to some of these gas plants for the next 15, 20, or 30 years. So I would absolutely support buying it low and passing the savings on to the consumer.
Okay. That's all I have.
Thank you all very much, and I
Appreciate you.
appreciate y'all allowing me
Take
to
care of
speak
yourself.
tonight.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Do we have a question in the back?
You did.
Would
My
you still-
question is.
Well, you gotta come to the podium and state your name.
You didn't have to go to the podium.
It's a presentation.
Okay, well, really and truly,
Catch him out.
if you got a question for Mr. Allen, this is really, come on up and state your name, but it's really just a presentation. Try to make it
Jason
short and
Smith,
sweet.
9295 North Street. My question is, who's in charge of the internet now? And why should it be under your jurisdiction if you get elected?
Well, I would like to see it under our jurisdiction. Right now, it's in the legislature, and there's a commission, and the problem is that I pay for high-speed internet, a lot of people pay for high-speed internet, a lot of people pay for just internet, and we don't get what we pay for. Half the time, it's bouncing out, it's slower, and like I say, the internet is like lights now, it's becoming a necessity. They're gonna be switching to telemedicine, to education on the internet, and jobs. There's so many jobs that people are working from home anymore. We need to ensure that everyone has equal access and equal opportunity on the internet.
But how are you gonna make changes from what we have now to the Public Service Commission?
Well, the Public Service Commission regulates utilities that already have infrastructure such as power lines that they could use, and we could encourage them to allow companies to be able to use those right-of-ways. They might have to pay for them, but use those right-of-ways to give that access. But right now, the Public Service Commission does not regulate the internet, and I am a believer and would advocate for the Public Service Commission to control the internet. Because right now, a lot of people complain about it because they don't get what they pay for.
Well, a lot of people are.
All right, so we kind of need to wrap this up and move on, but if you got any more questions or anything that would like to be addressed, let's just go ahead and capture Mr. Allen at a later time. Appreciate you coming.
Sure,
Mr.
y'all
Allen.
give me a call. I'd welcome any calls or questions y'all have. I enjoy speaking with y'all. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Appreciate it.
Okay, this is agenda item number 8. This is adoption of the minutes of the October 22nd, 2020 regular meeting of the Livingston Parish Council. Is there any discussion on this particular agenda item? Got a motion by Tracy Gerlinghouse, second by Jeff Ard. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? All right. Agenda item number 9, this is the parish president's report, 9A. Come on up. Appreciate you, Jennifer.
I'm not parish president, but I'm
Well,
Kirk.
he almost started. He made a move for it.
9A is the introduction of the budget ordinance for the 2020 amendments and 2021 original budget. Y'all have the latest and greatest copy. This copy is what will be voted on for adoption on December 3rd, unless I or you or the parish president make any changes to it, at which point they have to be stated out loud before y'all approve the copy. So in this version, you will see that Blue Cross gave us a 0% increase on health insurance, life insurance, and vision insurance. So our expenses will be the same as they were last year, premium-wise. We were super shocked on that. They really want to keep our business, so they did not raise our rates. Our workers' comp, however, did increase on our mod rate from 0.93 to 1.03 due to an old claim that we have that they finally reached a settlement on. Hopefully, if we have we haven't had a claim in years, with the exception of this one from years ago. So hopefully that mod rate will go back down. Also, we purchased a dump truck in DPW, so I added that into their fund. And then Mr. Layton and I finalized the numbers on the asphalt overlay project for the 2021 year, and that number came in at $8.1 million at this point. We will start evaluating about April on how sales tax is rolling in and how the grants are doing to see how much we are going to add to that in 2021, in June of next year. Other than that, it's the same as the previous version. So unless
Mr.
y'all have any
Chairman.
All
questions.
right, we're gonna get everybody, so, go ahead and finish, Jennifer.
That's it on the budget.
Okay, go ahead, Randy.
Just some information I was looking for. I'm in favor of everything she said. The insurance question I had, did we have to bid that, or did it get bidded, or?
No, sir. Insurance is not something that is required to be bid.
Okay.
Blue Cross has kept everybody happy, the majority of the people happy. I mean, I think that we've determined over the course of, since 2012, that they have the best balance of covering procedures, and their pharmacy drug coverage is the big deal. We tried to swap for a cost savings to United Healthcare one year, but they wouldn't cover. Everybody was calling saying they're not covering our prescriptions, and, you know, so we went back to Blue Cross. So, and they treated us pretty well overall.
Jennifer, I looked at the budget. In 2019, we amended the budget to add $500,000 under the demolition and condemnation. And I noticed it's not showing as being listed in the 2019 final adopted budget. Can you tell me why?
It was 100,000.
500,000.
That may be an error then, because I don't have record of.
I mean, we did it at the meeting on the night that we approved the budget. We made an amendment to add 500,000 to
Okay, now,
demolition and
unless you
condemnation.
restricted that fund balance, you would have to add that back. If you didn't spend it by the end of that year, it doesn't just stay
I
in
mean, I
there.
understand, but listing in the 2019 final adopted budget, the line item is 0
Okay,
right now, where that line item should say 500,000.
okay. That's
I'm
a
just-
simple error.
Okay.
I can put that 500 in, but it doesn't mean that you would be able to go back to.
I understand. I mean, if we-
month.
we-
You would have to put it back
For
in.
the 2020 budget?
No, it was for
That
2000.
was 2019.
No,
I
it
think
was,
it's
no, it's for
2020.
2020. But it still doesn't show in the
Yeah.
2020. You're right.
Okay.
Not the 2019 final adopted, 2020.
Projected.
Do we have that in the minutes? Because I don't.
Yeah,
have
it's in the minutes.
It's in there.
It was when we were talking about, you know,
Because I want to
abandoned
say the
properties and
100,000
different-
that we added was in 28.
No, we added,
2018,
we added.
We didn't use
We
any.
haven't
We didn't use
spent-
any of it. We
We
added
haven't gotten
$500,000
any.
this year. In December last year, we added $500,000 to demolition condemnation. I'll get the girls to pull a recording and send it to you.
Yeah, do that, because I want to say we had a discussion at that meeting and decided until we got an ordinance that we could have teeth with, we weren't going to put that money in that line. But I could.
for the master plan.
We did master plan and master drainage plan, but I don't think we formally added
I'm pretty positive.
Yeah.
the demolition, because there was no ordinance that we could come up with that covered, I remember we talked about
It's on the book.
asbestos and all of that, and we decided until there was an ordinance.
Well, I'm pretty positive we voted. And that,
We did.
So, Tracy, did you have something to say about the, I got a couple of questions. If nobody else, I
No,
didn't
go
want to
ahead.
cut anybody off.
But yeah, if it's for the 2020 though, then that makes it real simple. I'll just pop it in there.
Okay.
If we did vote
We did.
to add
So-
that in for 2020,
So we gotta make sure it's still in there.
we'll just have to verbally state that. But I mean, if you're not gonna spend it before the end of 2020, you might wanna just re-add it for 2021. Because it will not roll over unless you restrict the
right,
fund
right.
balance.
Yeah, we-
So,
So you have to put it in each year that you
We- we-
intend
So
to
this is
spend it.
we
official
just do the
communication.
introduction tonight. We can amend
Right.
it at the next meeting.
Well, I mean, I was just thinking that maybe we wanted to go ahead and put it in there and you wouldn't have to amend it.
No, you have to. This
Can't
is,
put
this
it in
is
there
This
now
is just
during the
introduction. You can't amend it
introduction.
tonight.
We'll give her a
introduction.
list.
You still have to just read it out loud when you adopt it.
Okay, so we spoke about the master plan funding and the master gravity drainage plan funding.
Yes, those are in here.
Is that in here? I just-
Yes.
Thank you so much. Okay, good. Got just a simple question. I hadn't paid a whole lot of attention to this, but I was looking at it tonight. I was noticing that the animal control budget, 2018 ending fund balance, and then it just looks like it's steady dropped all the way to 2020 with about a $300,000 drop. is any way to explain that?
They have more expenses than you have revenues.
I was trying to look at the line items though, the expenditures, and I was trying to figure out where exactly, and I just don't see it. Everything's just kind of looking, you know, close to the same, budget expenditure. I mean, it's not nothing sticking out.
2018, you had a transfer from adjudicated property of 414,000. 2019, you had a transfer of 30. 2020, you have a projected transfer of 29,000. It looks like we're gonna actually transfer 80, the way the 2020 final budget set up, and 2021's got a projected at 25. But the difference of, the reason you're having the shortfall and not increase is because you had a $414,000 transfer from adjudicated property in 2018, and the
Yes.
number's substantially less than that every other year, so it's operating at a deficit.
Because that's because
Okay.
at the end of
Appreciate
2017
it.
is when
I
we
see that
contracted
now.
with Civic Source and
I
then
see
we
that.
sold all of that property up front. And now it's just a fluctuate, it depends on if they sell adjudicated property and we get a check, there's extra money that we're able to transfer.
Okay, so can you explain that one more time real quick?
So the adjudicated property funds are restricted for animal control. So in 2017, at the end of the year, we entered into an agreement with Civic Source to
I remember that.
maintain
I
our
remember that.
adjudicated property. So basically, they put out large ads and bulk property sales and auction them,
Mhm.
and we get a check at one time, versus the old way of doing it is where it was constituent led. So a person would have to be interested in a piece of property and they would approach us for a purchase. This way, Civic Source takes all of our adjudicated property book, there's a huge binder, and they go and auction out large groups of property for us.
Yeah.
So
So
we have to pay a commission to Civic Source, but we sell way more property, as you can see by the revenue checks that are coming in, than we did when it was constituent led.
2018
One
we
person
got-
would be interested in one property.
2018, we got a big chunk of non-recurring revenue.
Right.
So it made the fund look better.
Mr. Chairman, one more question.
Go ahead, Randy.
Occupational license, is that just in the general fund or is that broken out separate?
It is just in the general fund.
Okay, is there a way that we can break that out separate so we know how much we're getting on there?
I'm sorry, it's broken out. There's a
Yes.
separate line item in the
This
general
is a
fund.
separate line
Yes,
item?
sir.
Okay. Thank you.
So in 735,000 is what's projected for 2020.
Is that fund allocated to anything, just general fund, is not?
It is unrestricted revenue in the general fund. Yeah,
Anybody else got any questions?
that revenue also, the unrestricted revenues in the general fund also pay for everything that the Louisiana revised statute says the government has to be responsible for.
I don't really have any more questions. I got one thing to say. Really appreciate you, really appreciate Mr. Leighton Ricks, parish president, for putting such a large amount of funding into overlaying roads for the year 2021.
Well, it's not really us, it just happens to fall out that way. We put
Well-
every physical dollar that's available,
Well, okay.
but our debt will be paid off, so we're able to put more.
And I think we kind of saw that coming, but, you know,
Well,
it's a good thing.
no, because on years that they're not happy with the amount, it's gonna be my fault, so no, it's not up to us.
That's true.
It's just what's left over.
Yeah,
That's
don't-
true.
don't-
I'm just saying it's a really good thing, and I
Don't-
appreciate it.
Don't take credit what you can't, what you don't
No,
generate,
sir.
that way you can't take the blame
I can't
for it
maintain
later.
this, I don't want y'all looking at me.
Good. Thanks for putting it in the budget.
That will be a big hit, yes.
Okay, that's about it. Appreciate you very much. Do we need to vote to introduce this? Do you
Yes,
want to
please.
read that
You
ordinance?
gotta read it.
Go ahead, Angie.
Okay, this will be proposed ordinance 20-30, an ordinance amending the 2020 budget and adopting the 2021 budget of the Livingston Parish President Council relative to the general funds, special revenue funds, debt service funds, and capital improvement funds. The public hearing will be December 3rd, 2020 at 6 p.m.
All right, is there a motion? Jeff Ard's making the motion. Anybody? Bubba Harris is seconding the motion. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Not one? All right. All right, now it's Mr. Layton's turn.
Item B, and first of all, let me just say thank you to everyone that helped get that sales tax renewal passed. That's why we were able to do the 8 points plus whatever we were able to add to that for next year. It was tough, it was hard, felt like I was in a battle, but thank you all so much for that, and for the people of Livingston Parish, thank you. That's what allows us to do these road projects. Anyway, item B is really a housekeeping of, they want to move the dates from October to September. They want to move them like in line with what we're already doing on other trucks and all to from January to December for logging trucks. That's all that really is a bookkeeping
I want to ask a question.
issue.
Go ahead, Randy.
I know that's just for the permitting, right, Mr. Layton?
Yeah.
Okay. When they come and get a permit, do we check to see if they have an occupational license?
No.
Can we make an ordinance or put that
I
as an
say no,
administrative?
Randy. They may, because they do have to give company names,
Okay.
so they may.
I see Diddy shaking her head, yes, so they
Yeah.
must.
Okay.
So what,
Why they know-
out of curiosity,
Go ahead.
what's the permit cost?
$100.
So basically, we tell on a log truck, you buy a $100 permit, stick it on the side of your truck, and you can run all over the parish roads.
Yeah.
What's
Well, we
the-
do
what's the
that
lo-
so that we can track it. Now, we're gonna
Uh-huh.
come back to y'all next spring about looking at some.
Is a log truck exempt from the, because it's, I mean, look, I'm in the trucking business, but I don't have a clue because I'm not exempt. Is a log truck exempt from the 80,000 pound, or how does that work? Are they agriculture? How does?
Yeah,
I would definitely say no, you're not exempt without an exemption or a special permit to haul over 80,000.
And we also do require them to carry a
No.
bond so that we can tap into them if they tear a road up. We've got recourse.
Now,
But
that's
all
on the,
this really
that's on the
does
logging operation, or is that on the truck?
on the trucks.
Okay.
And we have, of course, you know.
Well, I mean, I just know
employee
that,
that goes around following.
and not a lot of logging in my district, but I've listened to some of the other councilmen talk
Yeah,
about
we've got some
when a
in-
logging operation happens on their road, and typically when the logging operation leaves, that their road's in shambles. So I'm just wondering if $100 a log truck is adequate for the damage done to the parish roads.
No, but
Well,
they
Well,
the
we,
good
that's
thing-
why we
correct me if-
bond
we
them.
bond them to make
I was
sure.
And
gonna
we don't
say-
release that bond until our liaison goes out and clears it. I mean, he's down to, if there's mud, if there's clay on the road, they have to come spray it off before he releases their bond.
And they have their contact info from them getting that permit,
Yeah.
you know, and when we escalate it, then they know who to go to, and it works pretty good, I guess, maybe. So,
Just an introduction.
okay, so you need to read the ordinance, Angie?
This will be proposed ordinance 20-31, an ordinance to amend section 46-5, permit for logging operations required violations, penalties of chapter 46, motor vehicles and traffic, paragraph E, effective date is more fully set out herein. The public hearing will be on December 3rd, 2020 at 6 p.m.
All right, does anybody have any more questions about this?
I'll make a motion.
All right, there's a motion by John Washington to introduce this ordinance. Second by Bubba Harris. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? All right, that was B. Let's do C. Don't forget about C. Who's
All
doing C?
right, C, I'll handle the next two. We are introducing an ordinance for the parish to acquire immovable property for the HMGP 4277 program. So this is a property at 505 Centerville Street that we are going to purchase and demolish.
Is that across from the church?
It's
I have
across
no
River
idea.
Road at the
I'm
end.
sorry, I don't know where this is. I'm just maintaining the grant.
Hey, it said that that the match is, have we been notified that the global match is they're gonna do that on all those hazard mitigation
I don't know
things?
about all of them, but they are on this one. That's the Old First Baptist Church.
That's the one across the street,
Yeah.
the little house looking deal? Okay.
It hadn't had windows in it since the flood.
All right, so,
TJO.
did you read this one? Or do you need to read this one? Go ahead.
This will be proposed ordinance 20-32, an ordinance to acquire movable property for the parish of Livingston pursuant to the Housing Mitigation Grant Program project number FEMA -4277-DR-LA-0124 Livingston Parish. The public hearing will be on December 3rd, 2020 at 6 p.m.
Before we vote on it, Mr. Chairman, I do have one question.
Go ahead.
I have a particular piece of property in my district that since 2018, he's been in, we had ran out of money. And I think Congressman Graves has got involved, Senator Kennedy has got involved, and Senator Roger Pope that says as soon as it gets to the state, that he can help it there, but I think it's still somewhere in Dallas over there. And that's the Kenny Van Pram and Mark Carter. Does that ring a bell? Is that?
That does ring a bell, but it sounds familiar, but I don't remember the details. You'd have to help me on that.
Is there like a priority system when they come in, you know, the properties like this, or?
Yes, every grant is different. So it depends on if it's 75-25, if it's 100%. Some are repetitive flood requirements, some are not repetitive flood requirements. But check with me on Monday, because we are still accepting applications for FMA 2021. So if it's a property that.
He's already been approved in 18, they're just waiting on the money to get here.
So he may be in the 2021 already. Just
Okay.
remind me Monday and check with me, and I'll look up and see where he is. But Mr. Gary,
Thank
I
you.
wanted to mention on this. So this one, the way this works on this particular program, we are only paying the homeowner 75% of the appraised value to purchase their property. So the parish is not out the 25%. We are only paying them the 75% that we will get reimbursed. The homeowner is the one who takes the 25% cost share. So if this program gets approved in the global match, of which the funding mechanism has not been put in place.
Then the homeowner will get the 25%?
Yes, sir. So it's
Okay.
not like we're out this 25%. This, the HMGP acquisition and elevation, it is no cost to the parish. The homeowner accepts the 25% cost share.
But I thought they didn't they come to y'all a couple of weeks ago and talk about the global match money? Isn't that approved?
It's different on different grants. These, the homeowner takes the cost share up front. Some of them we do.
Okay, so let's just go, so the parish has got some hazard mitigation grants that we
Yes,
laid
sir.
out there. Okay.
We have some
is
4277
that- and
grants.
Some of it's this, some of it's canals.
The
some
rain
of-
gauges that I'm fixing to discuss is one of them. We will
Okay,
take that 25%.
is that one of the ones at the global match that they're agreeing to use the, is
They
that the one?
haven't, nobody has, the only global match that we have been agreed to is our PWs from the 2016 flood. So the funding mechanism is in place and we have been approved. We will get our 25% back on the 2016 flood PWs.
Okay.
We are in the process of getting, they put the funding mechanism in place, but we are in the process of getting our funds allocated for NRCS project. My mind just went blank, I'm sorry. Another grant. So we have certain grants qualify for the global match.
Is that part of the watershed initiative
They
deal?
have not decided that
They
yet.
haven't decided
but we
where it's
think
coming from?
so,
Okay,
yes.
all right. That's all I'm trying to figure
I think
out.
they're waiting on us to tell them how we want to be reimbursed, but it's a possibility. There's nothing in there that says that we could not get reimbursed. That was actually one of our pre-apps, is to get all of our global match funded through that mechanism.
Right.
But that's not the only mechanism. OCD also has a global match. That's who's matching our 2016 flood PW. So it's not the only one, but watershed is an option.
Okay. I mean, I guess what I'm saying is I understand watersheds. I hate to see watershed being used on everything when we've got some areas under hazard mitigation that require 25% match that some of these governmental entities or some of people are thinking about passing on because they've got a 25. We just had the
Right.
battle up at Gravity 2 in Watson.
Right.
It's a $8 million project, and their part of their 25% was more than they thought that they could
Right.
come up with. And so I hate to see us use a lot of watershed initiative on other match areas when it might make the difference between some smaller governmental entity being able to do a project because they don't have the 25% in-house in their budget.
Right.
But the watershed
it's not
initiative
the only
money.
option. Watershed's not the, HUD funneled through OCD is also
Okay,
a global match.
I just wanted to express that concern.
These smaller projects help a whole lot more people than one. You know, we got 570-something houses that one project would help.
Yes.
But it's not typical that a homeowner cost share project will qualify under the global match reimbursement.
Yeah, that's-
Typically, the homeowner knows that their cost share is the 25% up front, unless they are in one of those grant programs where it is 100%. There is no cost share, and that's typically low income and repetitive flood. areas. So, but they know that upfront when they apply for the project.
I'll make a motion, we introduce this ordinance.
Okay, I can't remember my brain. We did read it, right?
We've read it.
Motion by John Wascom to introduce this ordinance, second by Bubba Harris. Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Nope. Okay, this is agenda item 9D.
Okay. D is, we are asking for a resolution to authorize the parish president to enter a contract with Quality Engineering for one of these HMGP 4277 projects. It's the Early Warning System and Rain Gauges project.
Mr. Chairman.
I just want to say thank you. Go ahead, Randy.
The locations of those rain gauges, I mean.
That will be at the schools across the parish.
Okay.
And then in certain waterways, I can't believe you're asking me this, but this is how much I know about it. In certain waterways, the information will feed back to LoSEP so that we're informed as soon as possible.
So are they the Amid River and Tickford River?
Actually,
It'll be-
I don't
it'll
know
be-
the engineer-
Chad might be able, Chad, or, oh, there we go. There we go.
Jamie can tell you.
Come on, Jamie. Go ahead, don't forget to introduce yourself, though.
Jamie Seal, Quality Engineering. It's actually pretty much every school site throughout the parish, as well as the majority of the major crossings. So any drainage lateral that has a significant flow to it will probably have a
And
system.
the purpose is,
The purpose of the gauge system, in this particular case, is an early warning system to notify the parish officials, first responders of when there is actually a threat, imminent threat coming as a result of any rain event, any flash flooding, things along those lines. But it'll also allow you, the parish, to gather data to further understand what's happening with the water within the parish. So they'll be able to go after additional grant money later on down the road as well.
nice. And that's for all of Livingston Parish.
That's going to
So
go throughout the entire
every
parish.
school, that being high school, elementary school, junior high school?
We'll have at least a weather monitoring system that will also alert for tornadoes and severe storms, but then also on the major bridges,
Yep.
large channel
So
crossings.
it'll collect that information, being the amount of rain for that, at that time?
Correct.
And does it transmit that information to a?
Yes, sir. It'll update every 10 minutes, so in most systems.
Well, now, but let's, it's only 43,000, so that's, this grant's.
This is for the design.
This is for
and
this phase one,
creation.
this is only design part, right?
Yes.
The whole project is a half a million.
That's what I thought. I mean, but we're just doing the design part in phase one right now.
But this is
Is,
step one.
is phase two funded, or do we have to give them a number on phase?
Phase 2 is funded and approved, we just, phase 1, we're in motion here, so. we
Okay,
do-
I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't
Yeah, sign
something that,
contract first.
okay, I just want to make sure that wasn't something that could be a problem later, so,
No.
okay.
Mr. Chairman.
This is going to be a good thing. Go ahead, Mr. Andy.
I too, concur, a very good thing. But none of the gauges, those are just called rain gauges and not river gauges, right? None of the,
Well, there'll be a combination of the two. So you'll have rain gauges and you'll have river stream gauges on town crossings.
Calculate flow.
Right.
They're going to catch
It's not going to calculate flow. Flow,
No,
that's a
give me a
little
chance to
different
finish up
monster,
here.
so.
Okay.
But-
Jamie, what I'm asking is it's in Tickford or Amid River, and the reason I'm asking this because wind makes a problem. And water could come up whether you have rain or not.
So the gauging system is going to monitor the elevation of water within those channels,
So
which
I'm
will allow an engineering
So
firm to
I'm
go
asking
in.
if any of them are gonna be in Amid River and Tickford River.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's what I asked.
Absolutely.
Anybody else? Go ahead,
It's the
Randy.
same gauges, it's the
Same
same,
thing we're
it's the
running
same
in
stuff
Gravity One.
that,
It can be similar to what the drainage district wants. It's whatever LoSEP is asking for. In this particular case, they're going to be guiding it because it certainly is an early warning system at first. So there's going to be some capability of that they'll want, but then they'll also be reporting information on the backside that'll be beneficial to the parish and the engineers that work with the parish. Absolutely.
Appreciate you coming. Appreciate you explaining that. Thank you. Go ahead,
So
Jen.
I wanted to make one comment too, before y'all vote on this. I wanted to just bring your attention to this type of project is exactly the type of project that we use our unrestricted general funds for. So the leftover funds, after we pay all of the expenses that are required by Louisiana revised statute in the general fund, that says we have to fund a portion of the DA's office, the coroner, the court system, you know, all of those expenses that we have to pay no matter what. We have a little bit of money left over in the general fund from those unrestricted revenues like royalties or occupational license. That's where we're getting our 25% match for this project, drainage projects like this, or other drainage projects that we do. Because there is no other unrestricted revenue in this parish except what flows through our general fund. So I just wanted to keep that in y'all's mind. I know some people don't understand fully the intricacies of where the grants flow through in the financial statements. And this is a perfect example of what we do with that unrestricted revenue that's left over in the general fund, the little bit that we have.
So there's no way you can tie this to protecting roads, huh? No, I'm just kidding.
If it was possible, I would do it.
I know you would.
So we
Okay.
just need a resolution authorizing Layton to sign
Somebody
it.
making a motion? Tracy's making it. Are you seconding it, Mr. Lewis?
I can. No, I made it, but that's all right.
Okay, Mr. Bubba actually raised his hand first. He made the motion. Tracy seconded. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Nope. All right.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Hey, I just wanted to ask real quick, if it's okay if you can't. But what I was gonna do is bump up agenda item 20, 21, 22 after we cover number 10. Could you stay just for that in case there's any questions? I don't know if there will be any questions, but could you stay just in case?
Sure. I mean, I don't know how much I would,
Chad's gonna be here and probably cover most of it, but
I don't know how much information I could give you. I run the grant numbers, but
Okay.
Okay.
That's all we need then.
appreciate
just reading them, I can't answer,
Okay,
you know.
okay.
I could print some numbers, run some reports, but
Or maybe
I
look-
couldn't tell you where the weir is, Shane. Like,
Okay.
honestly, if you just want to be real about.
I just thought maybe
I do the
you might be able to
accounting, but I don't
provide
know where it's at,
a little bit of
actually.
input on maybe where, you know, if there, I hate to keep talking about it because it really ain't there yet, but like, you know, if we had applied for a grant or how it would be funded, or if we moved, you know, where we at on the project. I just was curious. So, I want to cover number 10 first, and then it won't be long.
Okay,
Just
sure, absolutely.
if you can stay. Thank you so much, Jennifer. It's a very positive night. You know, $8.1 million into the overlay program. You know, we're at the beginning stages of performing a study to help us determine, you know, where our problems are and how we can come up with a study to help us increase capacities and flow rates in our canals to reduce future flooding and stuff like that. It's a very positive night, you know, so thank you for staying. Thank you for staying. So, agenda item number 10, wait, did we? Yeah, we voted on that. Agenda item number 10, this is an update on the reopening of the businesses within Livingston Parish. I attended a Denham Springs Town Hall the other day, and it was a good many people there, maybe 100, 150 people, and people, you know, they were very concerned about the current restrictions on the businesses within Livingston Parish, and you know, some felt that, you know, some businesses were being treated this way, and some businesses were being treated that way. You know, there were some people there upset about Livingston Parish only being able to have 25% capacity at the, you know, some of the sporting events, you know, and, you know, majority of the people there I felt was, you know, understood, you know, the hazards associated with, you know, COVID-19 and wanted to be responsible and prevent the exposure and spread of COVID-19, but one of the constituents there asked me to put this on the agenda to just give an update to the businesses. And I invited my brother here to come up tonight to give us an update. You know, there was some legislative petition signed in the State House of Representatives, you know, removing the restrictions, COVID-19 on in the state of Louisiana, and then from what I understand, the governor, you know, opposed that and fought that in court. I read today where the judge ruled, you know, I guess you could say the executive branch favor there, and so I guess now we're back to square one. And so, no real relief in the future. I invited Sherman to kind of come give us an update and just kind of thought it would be a good idea to discuss this. So, appreciate you coming. Don't forget to state your name and address and all that good, beautiful, wonderful
Yes,
stuff.
sir. And I'm the older brother, so he doesn't get that quite often. But no, my name is Sherman Mack. I'm the state representative for District 95 for the State House of Representatives. That covers the Holden, Albany, the town of Livingston, where we are now, about half of Walker, and some of South Denham Springs. So geographically, I have one of the largest state representative districts in the state. And I'm proud to do so. Let me say before I start, and I'm not going to be long because I know there's a lot of people here with a lot of important business tonight. But you know, representing Livingston Parish, in my opinion, is pretty easy. And what I mean by that is that there's a lot of state representatives, some of which represent parts of Livingston. They also represent other parts of the state. They represent adjoining parishes who have different philosophies, different policy opinions, come from different cultures and different socioeconomic backgrounds. And so sometimes it's hard for them when they're trying to represent the people that elected them to make a decision. It's really, to be honest with you, on some of these issues that we're dealing with, we're talking about tonight, and we've been talking about for the last year, so like social issues and economic issues. You know, I'm pretty solid on what my constituents want me to do here in Livingston Parish, so I feel very blessed by that. Where are we now? Before I tell you where we are now, what my opinion is of where we are now, let me tell you kind of how this started. Back in the early 2000s, the legislature actually enacted under Title 29 of our revised statute the ability and the power for the executive branch, which is the governor, to issue what's called a public health emergency. Just like you have, you know, hurricanes and we issue a state of emergency. Well, the legislature in its wisdom then, before I was there, thought it was necessary for a public health emergency. And a lot of that was due to, you know, some of the issues that was going on at that time too. This was the first time that a public health emergency has been issued, but it was concerned back then. But what the legislature did in Title 29 is it also implemented some things in that same statute, kind of a checks and balances. It gave the legislature the ability for one branch of the legislature, not both, to be able to come in if they didn't necessarily agree with the governor, if they thought it was lasting too long, or they didn't think it was a real public health emergency that was either positively or negatively, you know, affecting the state, some of the things that are implemented, that they could basically override the governor. And that was a section as well. So that really never got utilized. It was never questioned because up until this point, we had never had a public health emergency. But then COVID comes. And it knocked us down pretty good. I mean, I think everyone would agree with that. And I'm not here to criticize anybody. I'm not here to say COVID isn't real. It is. You know, I've known people that's gotten very sick from it. I've known a lot of people it's affected their businesses, affected their being able to go watch their children play ball. It's affected people that have actually, you know, suffered deaths in their family. I know we all knew Reverend Johnson. I don't think there's anyone on this council or that I know that's in politics or in governing here in Livingston Parish that hadn't shook that man's hand and went and asked for prayers from him. And we all know what happened, the tragedy that happened with him. So I'm not here to do that. But when this hit, you know, there was a progression of, you know, when are we going to be able to open Louisiana back up? Because in my opinion, you know, we need to take the precautions that need to be taken. And those who think like me thought the same thing. But we also need to have a plan to make sure that small businesses are able to operate, that kids are able to be educated, that, you know, people, you know, are able to eventually get back to some semblance of life that we enjoy here, not only in Louisiana, but all over the country. So there was a move for a petition to be utilized because the governor kept the mandates in and he kept the public health emergency in play, he kept renewing it. And unfortunately, that didn't really materialize when the petition first hit. A lot of people talked about the Seaball petition. That's Representative Alan Seaball from the north side of the state had initiated this petition when we were in the regular session. We just couldn't quite get enough signatures for that to be implemented. And the governor was in the right without the signatures to declare the public health emergency and issue the mandates that he was able to do. So I mean, I can't really criticize the governor because he's, you know, if you want to criticize him on policy, that's fine. But he's not, technically he was not violating the law at that time because the statute under Title 29 gave him the authority to do that. But then we were called into special session to try to deal with the problem, or that was what was sold to the public that we were going to do. And 2 days before the special session ended, there was eventually, in my opinion, a very watered down petition, one that I didn't think was strong enough, but a very watered down petition that was eventually signed by a majority of the House. The Senate really didn't, for lack of a better term, play ball. I mean, they kind of stepped out of it. And so we got enough signatures. I think it was 60 plus. It was signed. Of course, what that petition did is it basically, in simple terms, was ordering the governor to issue a proclamation declaring that the state of emergency was suspended for 7 days. And then at the end of that 7 days, if he wanted to, he could then issue another state of emergency, and then we would have to come back and do another petition if we so desired. That was challenged. He filed an injunction declaring it unconstitutional. Jeff Landry, who is our Attorney General, who's kind of the lawyer for the state, filed a mandamus ordering him to comply with the Title 29 section that I'm referring to and comply with what was in the petition. Coincidentally, that was actually heard today in front of Judge Billy Morvant over in the 19th JDC. And what he ruled is and I'm an attorney, and I haven't got a chance to really study the ruling, but I did watch some of it and tried to get as much as I could. But basically what he ruled is that the subsection of that title that I'm talking about that gives the legislature the ability or the power to basically override the governor with that petition for no matter what duration it was unconstitutional. You couldn't do that. The problem that I have with that, and I think a lot of the problem that some of my colleagues who think the way I do have with that, is that if you're going to declare one part of a statute unconstitutional, you kind of have to declare all of it unconstitutional. And that specific statute is the statute that gave the governor the authority to issue the original public health declaration. So if you throw the entire statute out, then the governor doesn't have the authority to do what he did. We don't have the authority to undo what he did if a majority of us try to do it. And kind of the disheartening thing that kind of, has still got me, well, my drive home tonight, I'm going to be thinking about is that, the judge made a comment that had the Senate came in and kind of mirrored what we did, then obviously that would have been the intent of the entire legislation, and he may have granted the mandamus. And that would have really helped those who really want to open Louisiana back up. Again, I'm not here to criticize. Under the law today, after the ruling of Judge Morvant, the governor can and has issued this public health emergency and extended it. I believe he's extended it to, I think the next one is December 4th. We're technically under phase 3. So that means that 25% some places, 50% some places, kids still have to wear masks at school and things like that. And some people can't open. The thing that we need to be praying about, and you can call me, even if you're not in my district, call me. Let me know your thoughts. I want to hear them. But call your legislators, call your state senators, call your congressmen, call your national senators, is that, and no matter how you voted, I'm not here criticizing what happened in the national election, but I'm reading that this vaccine is really not going to come into play until February. So after the inauguration at the national level, if we're going to do a shutdown, another public shutdown for 6 weeks until February, I can tell you that there are constituents in my district and there are constituents in my neighboring districts in the Denham area, and in the Hammond area, and in the Ponchatoula area, in the Florida parishes, they will not survive. These small businesses will not survive. You have parents that will not get to watch their children play basketball and baseball. Those kids, most of you know me here, some of you watched me grow up. I was a basketball player at Holden with the Southeastern. If you would have told me my senior year that I wasn't going to play basketball at Holden and come over here to Dole and almost get chased out, I've been devastated. It would have affected me the rest of my life. And again, I'm not criticizing anybody. There's no handbook to give Governor Edwards to say this is how you handle this, or to give the Livingston Parish Governor body, to give the legislature. But we do have to try to have the mindset, and this is my opinion, to get back to life as normal the best we can sooner rather than later. Again, I'm not saying COVID's not real, but to answer your question, answer the question that Shane had of me and asked me to come here, we see each other periodically. Where are we at? Right now, with today's ruling, you're under phase 3, and you have to conform to those conformities that the governor has issued, and if you don't, you're not in compliance. Now, there's hope. I mean, if those of you who are on my side of the fence, it goes any constitutional issue goes directly to the Supreme Court, so it won't be appeal. It won't go to an appeal process. My understanding is it will go eventually to the Supreme Court. They will decide it. Hopefully, they'll put it on the fast track, and hopefully, before the holidays, we'll have a ruling from the Supreme Court. And once that's done, then that's kind of going to take you to.
Appreciate that. Go ahead, Randy.
I want to ask Representative Mack a question. Sherman, I believe in a petition too. If I had opportunity to
Yes.
sign it, I would sign it. And I've witnessed the same thing you witnessed, the businesses are being devastated. I read the ruling too, but I'm not an attorney, so don't put me
Yes.
there. But I thought that they said that we are no longer in phase 3 is why the petition didn't pertain. We're
No,
now in
no.
phase 3.3.
Well, we're under a hybrid phase 3.
Yeah,
And so, you know,
3.3, and that's what I seen the last, because I know it's
I read
being
it too.
appealed.
Yeah, there's
So
no
I'm
real.
wondering if we can modify the petition before it even gets there.
Isn't phases all just made up by John Bell?
Well, that's what I was
Edwards?
about-
mean, it's
let me-
all just
Yes.
made up
Yeah,
anyway.
Let me answer it this way. Phase 1 and the restriction under it is whatever the governor says it is.
Yes.
Phase 2 and the restriction is whatever the governor says. Phase 3 could be A during one phase, and he can
Right.
say it's phase 3, but it's something different. So that's kind of up to him.
Yes.
What could happen? What could we do? We could go back and do, and sign the C-ball petition.
Right.
Okay, and it, again, I'm not here to criticize anybody. I want that to be clear, okay? But my position would be, and was, if we would have signed the petition back in April or March,
Right.
when it was first presented, then this thing could have been litigated while we were still in session.
Right.
And had the court come in and said, you know what, even though the statute's never been challenged, and it's 15 years old, or however old it is, we're gonna declare it unconstitutional. We as the legislature, being in session, then could have come in and either fixed it, did a new bill to change the law, to put it in conformity with the Constitution. We would have had the opportunity to do those things. But unfortunately, you know, and maybe the timing's suspect, and I get it, and I'm not saying I disagree with it, but, you know, that may have been why the petition wasn't originally signed. You know, there were a lot of us who signed it early that we just couldn't get there. I'm very thankful that we eventually got there, because I think it sent a message, at least from the House of Representatives, that I'm a part of. But maybe that's what we do. We go ahead and we sign a new petition. Hopefully we can get enough to go forward. But I know, look, I want to work with the governor. You know, I'm not saying that the governor's not a bad person. I've worked with John Bell Edwards. You know, we have different political philosophies. He and I disagree on policy issues a lot, but it doesn't mean he's a bad person. He's trying to do what he thinks is best for the state of Louisiana. I'm trying to do what I think is best for the state of Louisiana, and sometimes we just don't agree on what's best. And y'all know that as being council. And that's where we are.
Any more questions?
Thank you. Appreciate
So
it.
thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for the
you.
update.
Sure.
Tough spot.
It is, and look, the best thing we can do right now, and it's not the only thing we can do, but the best thing we can do is pray about it, and that's what we need to do. Thank you very much, guys. Give me a call with anything.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Okay. As promised, I was gonna move up agenda item number 20. I think she left her stuff here, though. I think she was over here. I was gonna move up agenda item number 20. This is status and discussion of the Weir project. Honored to have Mr. Chad here tonight with Fort Neblata to give us an update of that Weir project.
Yeah, good evening, council. Thanks for having me. I appreciate everything you guys do. I know it's a tough job you guys have. So Weir project is what we're talking about first?
Yeah.
Basically, we're still in the modeling phase of this project.
Okay.
We're getting fairly close to coming up with some scenarios, and you know, basically 3 things we're trying to do. This thing was 1955 when the original design was done by the Corps. And the original design was actually a weir that cut the, no boat access to the diversion. But then like a year later, they added up, you know, boat passage to it. So the original design was 60/40. They added this boat passage. We don't know what the design was after that because they just went and added it. I don't think they modeled it. And of course, they didn't model it like we are doing today. There's 2D and 1D and stuff we're doing nowadays. But anyway, we're trying to mimic the original design so we can work off of that to come up to make sure we're not impacting things after we put something back in place to where it should have been. Because they had original mean water surface elevations and all that we're trying to match. You know, if it degraded over time, let's get it back to the original and then see what those impacts are to the area. But anyway, that's where we're at with it. We're getting pretty close to getting that to the point to where we have these 3 scenarios. Another month, I think, is what we're going to need probably to run this. We've got the original stuff in place. We just need the other scenarios. Do we need to do some dredging on A-meat to make it better? Do we need to, do we even need to do that? So that's where we're at on the Weir project.
Okay, thanks for coming. Thanks for giving that update. Chad, I had one question, just to clarify. So the modeling, you know, in the modeling's gonna tell you, I mean, if you was to rebuild it as it was originally designed, or how we're planning to design it and build it, you know, how it affects the current flow in the area. Is that true? I'm not trying to make that up, I just,
No, that's right, that's accurate.
yeah.
Let me back up just a little bit more, and I may have mentioned this already, but basically the Amite watershed has already been modeled, similar to what's getting ready to happen for the whole watershed initiative. They're spending some of the dollars to model the entire state in different HUC, they call them HUC regions. But anyway, the Amite was kind of a pilot program, which we're thankful for because it takes up probably 2/3 of the parish, or at least half of the parish drains to the Amite, right? So anyway, that model was already done by a company called Dewberry and some other subs. But anyway, that we're using that model because it's supposed to be used for other projects, like similar to this. So we're incorporating our weir modifications in this model. That's already been, they've already done some preliminary stuff with the weir. Just kind of put it in where it's at. You know, what's the existing condition of it, and that's what they model. Our model wants to take that information, add the weir, or we're going to, bring it up to the original elevation. What impacts happen from that situation? So it's finding out what, if we do bring this thing back up to what it was in 1955, what are the impacts to the surrounding area? So upstream, downstream.
Appreciate that. Go ahead, Gabriel.
What rates it, what rate is it doing it right now?
Currently, it's like 75-25.
75 going down diversion, 25 going down to 80.
And it was the image before was 60 down the Amite and 40 down diversion. And I think we've even heard terms of 75 going down the Amite and 20. So it's really opposite of really what it should be. And this has been doing this for many, many years. So you can imagine the silt and everything down the Amite's built up all this time. So it's not going to be, it's going to be a challenge to see how this thing works out to get the flows.
So is your concern if you put the weir back as it was originally designed and you move that much water down the Amite, they don't have the capacity to hold it, you're going to flood people downstream?
That's exactly right. So we just want to make sure that that's doable. And maybe it is there, but maybe it's not. So that's what we're challenged in looking at.
You certainly don't want a negative impact.
Well, I understand. So Chad, let's say you go back to the original 60-40, and you're going to try to put 60% down Amite, and it won't work. What options do you have?
Well, that's when we got to look and see. That's the alternative. Maybe dredge the Amite for a certain point. There's some high points, not completely from the weir all the way down to the mouth, but there's some high points in the Amite. Maybe we could look at some of those being dredged or doing something different to help accommodate that. That's where we're at right now. That's the stage we're at, to see if we can make those, to see if those will improve it. But anyway, that's different alternatives, I guess. And the other thing it might be some other bigger project that's north of it that needs help to help this, like a Darlington or something. I don't want to say that third word, but anyway, it might be something like that may have to offset this situation. So
Appreciate you. Go ahead, Randy.
I'm not gonna talk the technical information. I already know the 60% ain't gonna work down there in the present capacity it is. And I know you have to do modeling to prove that. What we didn't need to know, the people down there need to know, you the project engineer, right? Y'all the project engineer?
Yes, sir.
What we need to know is a time frame, a schedule, a Gantt chart or something, a duration, something of what's going on. The simulations are already started, the modeling, how much longer, you said about a month of that. Okay, then what's the next step? We need to look at something and say, okay, when I go to the gas station, we're looking at 2.5 more years before they have to start work.
Sure.
We're looking at 60 days.
I can
Everybody just says we already spent the money, that's what's wrong. And I'm not gonna say none of that stuff, because that's what people say when they get agitated and can't, and there's no transparency. We can't see that.
I don't mind providing that.
We need to have transparency, we need to see a schedule, we need to know what progress we're making and what we're not making. We talk about the engineering aspect of it, and that's all over our heads. But the guy that lives on that river knows 60% more capacity the river's not gonna take, because, a half-inch rain makes it come up,
Sure.
Because they start pumping on the other side, the other parish, neighbor parish starts pumping before.
Yeah, I can
So that's all the
provide
things that
a
happen.
schedule. That's
And the
not-
weir has to be engineered to where it's able to open and close for when the water's low. You can open it up, and when the water's high, you can shut it. That's been
And of
engineered
course,
that way.
schedules are subject to change, you know, based on
Yeah, that's fine.
different
Yeah,
variables, but
preliminary
a tentative.
For sure.
Yeah.
But those are
preliminary
the
schedule would be
engineering
great.
questions.
I don't mind, yeah, I don't
Those are
mind,
engineering questions. We gotta know where we at, where it's gonna be.
I don't mind
Thanks,
putting that
Chad.
together. I don't
What,
mind.
any more questions, Randy?
No, sir.
Anybody? All right. Chad, you just don't know how much I appreciate you coming here and giving us that update tonight. It was very valuable information. Thank you very much.
Did you want me to
Okay,
cover? you want
so
me-
we're gonna move on, stay right there. We're gonna move on to, agenda item number 21. This is discussion on the dredging of the Amite River. You might have covered a little bit just now, but just kind of wanted an update. Is there a project that exists, and if so, where we at on that project, or just, is
Yeah,
it
there's
possible
two-
to give an update on it?
Two projects, but I'm gonna cover, you got the Amite, but Amite and the Blind River, two projects, both at the mouth. Coastal restoration kind of project, we're using the silt at the mouths of these two, rivers to accommodate some coastal restoration with it, okay? So, this is somewhat of a similar situation. We're probably a month out to figure out exactly what we're looking at and what area we need to do. We did a bathymetry survey of it so we can see the water depths at both of them. Blind River is much worse off than the Amite River. The Amite River still needs some work done to it, so, they're both gonna have to have something done and then used for some restoration on it. So we're, like I said, I think we're about a month out from that being finished. Kind of the same kind of thing, kind of modeling and seeing how much volume we have, to fill these other areas that we have.
Chad,
Appreciate that, Chad. Go ahead, John.
you said Blind River is worse than the Amite River. My question is, where is Blind River worse than the Amite at the mouth? I mean, it's only like a foot there at times.
Yeah, I can show you some color coded stuff, John, but anyway, there's definitely at the mouth of the Blind River is worse.
Where it goes into Marpaw?
Yeah, you got 6 to 7 foot of depth kind of, and I've heard navigation issues at both, but Blind River sounds like it's worse, and I can tell just by the imagery that we've already picked up, but,
So you're saying the mouth of Blind River is worse than the mouth of the Amite?
Can I make a comment?
yeah.
Yeah, just a second. John, you done?
Am I correct?
That's correct.
The mouth of, where they both go into Marpaw, the mouth of Blind River is worse than the mouth. Okay,
I'd like to make a comment.
Go ahead.
Concerning that.
Go
I
ahead.
think, and Chad may be right on the technical data, but John is also right. But what I think is that the Amite River is so much narrower than Blind River that there's more volume of water, even though Blind River may be 3 feet at the mouth, where the Amite River's only one foot, there's more volume of water.
I understand, I understand, and I agree
Being
with
held
you.
back.
I just, I
But
didn't
the
know where you was
Amite River's
going.
about 1 foot at the mouth, and Blind River's about 3 foot.
But
Appreciate that. Go ahead.
the thing about it, now this is a coastal restoration project, so we're looking to we're gonna find material to fix.
Yeah, it's a combination.
But the money's available for this. I mean, once you get the design,
Yeah,
then we can go, the money's available through the Go Mesa that we've already sold the bonds on, so
Correct.
we can move forward. It's not a matter of, like if on the Weir project, if you determine it won't work, then you gotta go figure out how you fix it where the funds are coming. These projects, once you get the design done on where the debris, where the fill material's coming
Correct.
from, then you can go on with the coastal restoration.
That's correct.
And Mr. Randy, I just wanted to give one little addition here. Guys, I can update by project you said, people say we've already spent the money and that's the problem. I can give you an update on any of these projects at any time straight out of our system on what we have spent, and anytime that Chad bills me, if there's any deliverables required for that billing, I have copies of those. So don't feel like you can't get access to this information, because I can show you every check that we've paid and the support for them and how much money we've spent on each project at any time. It generates right out of my system.
And we give a description of whatever we're invoicing at the time.
At the next meeting, we have a schedule and a cost estimate, that'd be fine.
I'll provide that.
Appreciate that.
You want just these projects that we've discussed? Because I've got about 70 running
I don't
simultaneously.
think you need all of those at once.
I don't want to overwhelm y'all, but the information is available if you want it, so you just have to tell me what you want to see.
Just these two. Go ahead, Gerald.
So I asked you last time, you planning on going through the cut where the old ciphers used to be, right?
Correct.
So that's private owned land. this area, right?
No, sir.
So,
It's not.
so,
All right, hold on. Let's not get out of order here.
so we got landowners that own that property before all the trees fell down. So that's something we probably need to look into, called the river I asked you about went around by our counts.
Correct.
So ask that question you asked.
So I'm asking you, are we gonna dredge the old river, or are you gonna make a new stream going out to the lake?
So there's
on
a,
the
there's a,
Amite
this
River.
is kind of
Amite
out,
River.
this is kind of out our, this is a state issue. State land office determines who owns that water body. And
Thanks, Jennifer.
We've already got a letter from those guys. I provided, I think, I can give it to Chris Moody, but anyway, basically that's out of our hands. The state's already determined that that's a state water body. There's no ownership of that.
Hold on. Go ahead, Joe.
Years ago, when I was a kid, that was all property.
Yeah, that may be true, but the way the law reads, and I guess the
Yes.
way the state lands reads, and I'm not an attorney, so I can't
I'm
tell
not
you
either,
sure.
so that's why I'm asking you to answer the
Correct.
question for the people that own.
Okay, Chris, you want, this is the letter that we got. I think this has been provided to the parish too, but basically, it's, the state land office determines who has ownership of it, and they have maps on, I think they have them online as well. But they kind of determine, once land has eroded away, they have what's called, it's just, I think the bed of the water body becomes the state's property, so.
But Chad, I'm not arguing, but it just doesn't make sense that you're gonna say that the river can eat through somebody's land and they give it up, yet where we fish, all those, you know, tidal marshes belong to the people that have had them for years. It seems that the law's pretty hypocritical in the fact that if the river runs over your land, then you lose it, but if the tide comes in over your land and you have coastal erosion, you get to keep it.
Yeah.
And you're not gonna
And
get
that's why
both
we,
sides.
that's why
All
I mean,
right, y'all.
yeah.
It's a
Got a lot of
complicated, it's a
discussion
very
here, I can't hear.
complicated legal issue. I mean, for years, that was the law. When the water rises, you lose it. But because that's happened so much in South Louisiana, they passed some newer laws that basically let people maintain it, with the idea that it may be recovered one day, or the land has mineral rights, et cetera. So there's different laws about when the river cuts through versus rising water.
Randy, you have
Do you
one?
have a choice as an engineering firm to which route to take around the island? Could you go right or left? Do you have that choice?
Yeah, now, look, just to mention, I think you guys asked us to look at that area. We went and surveyed and looked at it. There's a couple of cultural sites that are on that section of the I guess, the original deal. It would be very expensive and not very feasible to use that material to use for the coastal restoration, just because of some cultural sites that have been found on that. But beyond that,
I guess the question I was asking though, we want to put the river at the route it's supposed to be. We don't want to take anybody's property away from them.
Right.
Okay, now, we can understand you not being able to reclaim the property and put it back on the person's property. We understand that part.
yeah, I guess, Randy, what I'm getting at is the rivers, the river, looking back at some imagery, this is outside the state land property, the state land decision. This thing's been doing this for at least probably 70 years. It's been like that way. But let me just bring this up. There's no land. When we're talking about dredging, we're talking about waterways like in the middle of the river. And we're not talking about up on the banks. This is like in the beds in the bottom of it.
But
Matter of fact, you probably consider, if I show you the map, it's probably more so the Lake Maurepas that we're into by the time we're getting into it. It's not even.
So you're not even coming to the island in the mouth of
It may be starting on the very edge of the island going out.
That's what they're gonna do, but you're telling us it's gonna cost us more when you gotta go out there and dig all the stumps up and out, where you planning on going now, and where the river beds all river silt.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Getting a characterization of the material that we're gonna grab, Gerald, I think is all the same, whether it's in that oxbow or in the other part of it. We're not gonna sit there and tear up cypress stumps to dredge. We're not gonna dredge up cypress stumps to dump on the other property. So
Wait,
it's
that's
probably all the same, I guess, is what I'm.
Well, that's what you're gonna have to do. The river that goes around is nothing but silt that goes around.
Right.
Where you plan on doing the body of water now is nothing but big stumps. These people here tell you that it's
Used to be
nothing but
property.
stumps
Yeah.
and trees.
Used to be property.
Used to be land.
Sure.
So I challenge you guys to look at it, because it's gonna help about 12 landowners down there that own property.
Yeah.
We've been paying taxes on it 80
Well, we're gonna take some discussions,
Yeah,
some
good.
comments. Any more
Thank you,
questions,
Chad.
Gerald?
Yes, sir.
Chad, thank you so
Yeah,
much for
appreciate it.
coming. If you could just hang out just a few more minutes
Sure.
in case maybe some questions need to be answered. All right, so does any discussion, does anybody would like to ask any questions? Or I know there's a couple of people here, you know, just want to state your name and your address. And what we need to do is we need to, you know, address the council, and then we'll kind of in orderly fashion, you know, try to get all of your,
Shelton Davidson,
you know.
3006 Lower Rome Road, Springfield.
Wallace Davis,
Where do you live?
Lower Rome Road, Springfield.
Okay.
Who is this man?
Okay, that's a good
Mayor's
question.
engineer.
He is the,
Have I talked to you on the phone? Maybe so. I think I have. I got your paperwork.
okay, wait a minute, right here.
I got his
You need to
paperwork.
address the
I got his
council.
paperwork here, and I
Okay.
got maps and everything of
Okay.
down there. We
Okay.
paid taxes on that for 80 years, since
Okay.
1940.
All right,
It originally was called the ditch. That's when my ancestors went down there to get to the lighthouse out there. They cut a ditch across there.
Through the ciphers, just big enough for a little rowboat to get through.
If some of y'all old enough been there or know, been down there, and they even had road signs up there to show you where to turn to go through the damn ditch. And now down there, I just come from there the other day, they got canes stuck up. If you go, people look and say, you're supposed to go through where them canes were. But like I said, I got maps here from 1940 that show when it was completely land across there. And they tell me, I done talked to 2 or 3 attorneys, since it was man-made, dug across there, the state does not own that piece of property.
What's, the river channel goes around the hollow. We don't have no objection to that. In fact, it would help drain more of our property on that lower end of the parish if it went around the hollow. Because so many of those bayous drain off in that section of the river that is silted in. We don't have no problem with you draining there, but coming across our piece right there that we paid taxes on, and our ancestor has, and nobody told us nothing. Nothing. We
I
go down
told
there and
this
found
man, he
out.
said, you don't own nothing down there. I said, hell, we don't, man. And, that's where we at on it.
okay, so go ahead, Randy.
What the gentleman is speaking about is correct. The question I have is common sense that opening the waterways where it's supposed to be, the silt, like he's talking about, instead of going through the property, it's gonna drain more water. Less money, less work.
Well, so it's our project, right?
Yes.
I mean, it's coastal restoration's our project. We've
Right.
hired Fort Gablada to go study how to coast.
And we need to do the simulation
So
on
my
the,
question is, if we're using Go Mesa money to pay for it, as long as we're using that money to pay for it, why can't we determine where we
that's my
dredge the water
question.
from?
That's
Where we get the material from?
that's right.
Why doesn't the parish have say over where we, I mean, I understand Chad got a letter that says, according to the state, they can dredge through there, but why do we, as a governmental body, have to dredge there? Why can't we dredge where the river originally went to use that? And even if it costs more money,
Very, very good question. Mr. Moody, if you don't know the answer,
No, I
can we
know
get
the
that
answer.
answered?
I think, you know, it must come part of the grant, or the Corps of Engineer has to approve it, right, Chad? I don't.
Yeah, it'd be several agencies that look at it.
Yeah, they make the decision about where it's best to be done.
I would never be-
And then the issue about whether it's private or state land, that could be a legal question. I don't know.
I've talked to the board.
Is the
and
Oxbow,
man-made-
Okay, hold on, we got to talk at once.
is the Oxbow public land?
Yeah, are you talking about the actual island or the river that?
The curve around the island, is that private land or is that public land?
That's public.
So why aren't we dredging it instead of the other part?
It's all public, it's all state land.
Okay, but if these individuals think that it's not,
No, it's not.
why are we going through their land? Why can't we just go where the river used to go from?
Exactly.
Good question. Just worthy of an answer.
I guess
back to where I was, it's a matter of cost and dealing with cultural sites that are along there. If you guys want that, Gary, I guess we can look at it and see
We
what
want
the
that.
options are. The whole thing is, we're also trying to keep it very close to where the dredge material's gonna be taken and where it's being placed.
That's another good question.
Okay, good point, y'all. Face this way. Keep
I got
going.
his map here, he's hauling it a mile away. Why if they dredging there, why don't he put it on the property that it is?
Well, because technically, this is a coastal restoration project, it is not a dredging project, and that's the problem. We're using money that was given to us by the BP oil spill. Is it the BP oil spill? No, this was BP. It's BP money to restore the coastline. And so basically, we're restoring the swamp, what are we doing?
Yeah, it's basically it's parish property.
It's the Maurepas Swamp area that we're pumping it into. But we're doing that in an effort to dredge the mouth of the river. So my question is, why can't we just say we want to dredge it here? And I understand it might cost more money, but the money can only be used for coastal restoration anyway.
Okay, so what about if we maybe thought about passing a resolution to get the parish review engineer to look into that and maybe Mr. Moody to see if we have
I'll
the
make that
authority
motion.
to be able to follow that old path.
I'll second.
Well, somebody's gonna need to,
I made it.
y'all think that's a good idea?
Randy made
Did somebody make a motion?
I made it.
All right, motion by Randy Delat,
I'll second.
second by Gerald McMorris. Okay, do you understand what the motion is, or what the resolution is?
We
We
want
wanna
to
find the old
ask the parish engineer to study using the old route of the river around the island instead of using a ditch through the island.
To collect
To collect debris, to collect material for coastal restoration.
coastal restoration.
Okay, do we need to
It's called.
Do we need Mr. Moody to look into our authority to be able to do that, or y'all think we're good right there?
Well, it's a
It's
resolution.
our project. It's
Call for the vote.
It's our project. We're using our money. We hired the engineer.
Sounds like
It's
to
our
me you
project.
answered that question. The answer's no, we don't need to do that.
We don't need
Sounds
to.
good. So that's the resolution. You got it, right, Angie? We got the first and the second. We got the motion and the second? Right. I think we're ready to vote on this. This is gonna be a long night. You ready?
Wait on you.
All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay. Appreciate y'all coming tonight. Y'all have a wonderful day. Well, it's almost over. Have a wonderful tomorrow.
It will be.
Chad, can't thank you enough for coming. Okay, so we got one more agenda item, then we're gonna go back to number 11.
What else we gotta do?
Come on, man.
Why we gotta go back? I mean, there's nobody here that we need to jump around.
Well, I thought Jennifer was gonna stay. You're right about that.
Jennifer left.
So we will wait and cover 22 in the normal order of the agenda. Okay. So, agenda item number 11A. This is the Planning Commission recommendations. This is, what the heck is this? Espresso Go preliminary site plan, Ben Road extension. This is in Council District number 2.
This young lady currently has a coffee truck, and she is going to create a little drive-through coffee place in Watson. And it was approved by the Planning Commission, and I would like to make a motion to approve the preliminary plat.
Second that.
Motion to approve the preliminary plats by Gary, second by Randy. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? All right, so agenda item 11B, this is Belmont preliminary plat, Pete's Highway. This is Council District number 5, Mr. Bubba's area. Mr. Bubba, you prepared to make a statement on this, or
It was the
Dee Dee, would you
recommendation
like
of
to?
the Planning Commission to approve the preliminary site plan,
Okay.
preliminary plat.
It's a recommendation of Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the preliminary plat for Belmont.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
did she state her name?
I don't think she did. Hey, if you don't do it right.
I am Dee Dee Delat on behalf of Mr. Sound Development.
And he's in trouble.
Y'all live at the same address?
It's Councilman different.
Okay, good stuff. All right, so any discussion on this particular agenda item?
They went back, it was one we had discussed at the last meeting, and, the sign wasn't correct. So I think Thomas then went back and corrected that problem. Got the correct sign.
That's what he said, it was just a sign.
All right, okay. So any more discussion? There is somebody that would here like to say something on this. Come on up.
I'm Brian Hutchinson, live on Peach Highway, right next to where this development's gonna go in. I brought all the questions last month to you guys and, or to the council. The only question I have this time, in addition to all my questions that haven't been answered yet, is now there's 2 signs on the property describing the same piece of property. So me and several other homeowners in the area want to know why. Why the 2 signs? Why one sign says 191 home sites on 50 acres, another one says minor subdivision, 5 lots on 17 acres. So
Okay.
same piece of property, 2 signs.
All right, hold on.
Okay.
Come on, all right,
nobody's-
hold on. All right,
Well-
address the council. Can you come up and just state your name and address for the record? They got to do the minutes and all that beautiful stuff.
Thomas with Alva Fairbairn's office.
Thanks.
It's not it's not the same piece of property, it's 2 different pieces of property.
Okay, 2 different pieces of property,
Mm-hmm.
right? Okay, one of which is a 17-acre portion right there on the highway, correct?
It may be 17, I'm not sure exactly.
17.3 acres according to
Right.
your sign. You want me to show you a picture of it?
No, I got the
Okay.
picture.
Okay, don't forget to address the council.
Yes, sir, sorry about
The
that.
entire-
You want to maybe back away?
Okay.
Go ahead.
The 17 acres that is the new sign is part of the 55 acres, correct?
No, the new sign is the resub that they're doing in between the property. So the
Not
resub
according
is
to your
the-
maps, it's not.
Well,
Okay,
According to
so
your maps, it's the
let's-
same piece of property.
Okay, so
sometimes the maps don't get updated as fast as the resubs get approved.
That's correct.
And sometimes if resubs can be done,
This is the piece of property that's being resubbed right now.
Correct.
This piece right here.
That's 17 acres.
That's correct.
No,
This
that's
is-
not.
This is the
Okay.
subdivision. Yes, sir.
Okay,
it
you're,
is.
you're an engineer.
Correct.
Okay. Pull your calculator out. And,
I mean-
or actually,
all right,
just-
hold
just-
on
hang
here. This is
No,
enough.
I want him to do
If
this
you
in
don't
his
start
head.
addressing the council.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I mean, it's.
I want him to do something in his head.
Okay.
Let's please bring
Address
it
the
back.
council. Don't forget.
So
So what we got? What we got? Just say it.
I want him to show me that this little 3-acre piece
Yes,
of
sir.
property that he's claiming is 17 acres, I want him to show it to me.
I don't
Okay,
have anything to do with
okay.
the resub.
Okay.
That's not my
It's
project.
what
Okay,
I'm
from what I
asking.
understand, I think Gary's got a response.
What I'm
Based on
asking-
explaining
Okay,
that.
so I don't know exactly what happened, but typically, all minor resubs are how we subdivide parish with property within the parish.
Yes, sir.
So if somebody wants to cut a 55-acre tract up, and they end up with more than 4 lots, or more than 3 lots, if you have 4 lots, and you gotta advertise them, am I right, Gerald? Is that the way the law says? So sometimes signs are posted just to let you know that there's a resub of a bigger tract going on, which has nothing to do with the sign that's being posted for the subdivision. So there's probably 2 conflicting deals there. There's one sign on a subdivision of a certain acreage with a certain number of lots. There's probably another sign there that tells you we're gonna chop up a piece of property, and because there's gonna be more than 4 lots in it, it's gotta be advertised for the public.
Okay, so to me,
Yes,
the
sir.
answer to that question, his original question, appreciate everybody. Thank
It's-
you.
well-
It sounds like to me that this is 2 separate divisions of property, and then
No,
there's
sir.
2, okay, okay.
It's absolutely
Well,
not.
okay, I'll tell you what, we'll take a little action there to make sure that that gets clarified, but it sounds like to me, based off of what I'm hearing, that this is 2 separate, divisions of property. And that is the purpose of 2 separate signs, to inform the people that, you know, this parcel of property is being subdivided like this, and that this parcel of property is being subdivided like this, so that you know, that you could show up at the, you know, when it's on the agenda for the preliminary site plan and express, you know, any concerns.
It
So,
says.
hold on here. Go ahead, Gary.
It says on the subdivision with improvements that there's gonna be 191 lots
Yeah.
plus 4 tracks. It identifies on the approved, the thing that came out of planning approval, that there's a 52 plus or minus acre tract,
Yes, sir.
of which there will be 191 lots.
Yes, sir.
Plus 4 tracks. So I think,
Yes, sir.
so I think both signs cover what's happening here. You've got one sign that covers, am I right or wrong, Thomas?
The 4 tracks that you talk about in preliminary plat, I mean, is the actual tracks that are inside the development. The 4 tracks that he's referring to is the piece of property that's in between the 2 entrances that are not part of this development, that they're reselling into 4
Okay, so
Okay,
that-
hold on. Okay, appreciate that explanation. Gary, you got.
Is that why the sign, is that why the sign
That's
that,
why there's 2 signs.
because that sign,
The sign-
that, when that piece of property is cut up, there's gonna be more than 4 lots, so it's gotta be advertised.
That's correct. And
That's a
piece of
minor
property is
subdivision development there?
between the 2 entrances to the development.
Well, it's not, it's probably
Okay.
commercial, it's probably not a minor re-subdivision, it's just a minor re-sub in the fact that all property that we
Okay.
subdivide within the property.
All right, so I think he had one more question. Go ahead, buddy.
I agree with 100% what he's saying.
Okay.
Okay. However, the second sign says 5 lots on 17 acres. Correct?
I do not know that. I did not do the research.
What does the sign say?
I had to talk to Sam.
All right, hold on. We gotta get everybody, so, hold on. So, what was you saying?
Okay, minor subdivisions proposed for this site, 17.31 acres into 5 lots. Okay, now,
Let's address the council again.
yes, sir.
Come on.
I would like to use his map if that's possible.
Well,
Hold on.
wait, it doesn't matter what that sign says.
He's the one
But
that
it
brought the map
But
up
it doesn't
here.
matter what that sign says, because that's irrelevant to what we're voting on.
Well,
Has nothing to
irrelevant,
do-
you're right.
hold
That
on.
sign, that sign has nothing to do with what we're voting on tonight. Now, that, you need to notify planning that the sign on the minor resub is wrong, in your opinion, and they can go look at the map on the minor resub, but that has nothing to do with what we're voting on tonight. The sign on what we're voting on tonight matches.
Okay, other than the fact that they both describe the same portion of property.
Well,
This 17 acres is included in that 55.
Okay,
That's
so
the
Dee
point
Dee-
that I'm bringing up.
All right, so Dee Dee, you go.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes.
So the item that I'm here for tonight has
Yeah.
nothing to do with what he's speaking about. So it's the recommendation of the planning commission to approve the preliminary plat.
For Belmont. Okay, so, Bubba, did you have something you wanted to say?
I was gonna say, I talked to Sam, and Sam said that everything had been approved through the planning commission, that's what he had told me.
For Belmont, which is
Yeah.
what we're voting on tonight.
That's the one, correct.
Okay.
I'm all for a motion to go ahead and accept it.
Got a motion on the floor to accept the preliminary preliminary plat for Belmont. Second by Scooter King. Is, any more discussion? All right. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Appreciate everybody. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand. I'm sorry, I thought I asked. We've already voted on it, but come on up and.
So, I'm Bethany Grubb, I live across the street. I just wanted to ask about traffic since we're on
Did you
Highway.
state your name and address just for the record? I'm
Bethany
sorry.
Grubb, 22381 Highway 16.
Thank you.
So I'm across the street from where this is. I just wanted to ask about the traffic for Highway 16. It's in a horrible curve. We actually had a fatality there 2 weeks ago, so I just wanted to see if that had been looked into as far as the subdivision is going. And then also the school impact, because it's Graves Creek, they're at capacity. Just things like that with this. Is that
Okay.
Is
so,
that come here?
I'm
Where is that?
gonna try to answer that for you, and if I'm wrong, anybody, y'all just step right up. Okay, so, this is the preliminary site plan, right? Those activities are answers to those questions. You know, the parish review engineer is gonna review this, and there's gonna be studies performed if necessary and reviewed, and based off those studies, you know, the developer will have to, you know, design, develop, and follow those recommendations from the study.
Okay.
So I don't really have the answer on tonight on, you know, traffic or with the school situation, but before the parish signs off, you know, on the completion of the development and everything, those questions will be answered. So what we probably need to do, if you're really concerned, is just kind of, you know, maybe call the planning commission and kind of ask those questions, and they'd be happy to respond and give you those answers that you're looking for as the development goes. Tracy, you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is just the first step.
Okay.
Before they even do those things,
You wanna make sure.
we have to say, yes, you may
can move
proceed from this
forward.
point.
Okay.
Then those, when they go, they do those studies, and it's not like they're going to.
Tom.
Then the appropriate agency, hey, you need to do this, you have to do this. And they will have to do those things.
Okay.
But this is basically the developer, or whoever is constructing or building the property says, hey, look, I want to do this, this is what we have.
This is our
And
plan,
this-
and then, okay.
and from that point, that's when they start, when they go forward.
Whether they need turn lanes or anything else is
I'm
determined after that.
gonna ask a
Okay.
question of Thomas for a second. Y'all got 191, y'all got 191 lots. You're asking for 2 entrances on the state highway. The state ain't gonna give you 2 entrances that close together.
We're gonna very much try.
Well, the chance of that happening is
It's in
slim
a
to none. I'm
horrible
just gonna tell
curve,
you.
I'm sure y'all can
I mean,
know, so air
I
magnetic
can't-
in a lot.
I mean, all we can do is just try.
Well, under their guidelines, there's no way you're gonna get 2 entrances that close together.
So that kills it,
I'm
at
hoping.
that level, if the state
All right,
tells
so
us.
do we get your questions answered?
Yeah, we just keep up with.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Like I
Yep.
said, Natalie in planning, that's Sam's right hand,
Okay.
and she will know. You call and ask for Natalie, she'll tell you everything you want.
There ain't no way the state's gonna.
All right. All right, so agenda item, this is 13C. This is Walker Urgent Care. Actually, it's 11C. It's 11C.
Yeah.
It looks like it is a recommendation of Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the preliminary site plan for Walker Urgent Care.
Correct.
Any discussions? Tracy, that's your area.
It's really easy, just everything was approved.
Have a
I like the
motion?
way it goes, I'll make a motion that we approve it.
All right.
You too late.
Any discussion from the audience? All right. Okay, so,
Yeah, there's a motion and a
all in
second.
favor? Wait,
Yeah, motion.
anybody opposed? There was a motion?
He motioned, I second.
All right,
And we all said aye.
all right,
Thank you.
all right.
Thank you.
Thanks for covering that.
All you engineers got.
Appreciate everybody.
Hey, so,
Agenda item number 12. This is adopt a resolution to reduce the speed limit on Denham Chase Avenue from 25 to 15 miles an hour. This happens to be in Mr. John Wascom's district.
Thank you, Mr. Mack. I got a phone call from constituents and wanted to get it changed, the speed limit. So I said, you know, I'm not gonna do it until you get petitions from the neighbors. So they went and knocked on the doors and got petitions from most of the neighbors in the neighborhood. It's not a big neighborhood, but it's off of 16, so they're, no, it's north of the high school.
It's on it's, if you head south on 16, it's on the right below Lockhart.
Yeah, so,
Oh, okay.
and
Yeah,
it's
I know
a
that.
dead end
Yeah.
subdivision back there, and they just said children are playing, and they just like to see it go from 15 to 25, so I'd like to make a motion,
Yeah, 25,
I'll second
15.
it.
25 to 15.
Yes.
Motion by John Wascom, second by Gary Talbert. Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? All right, you win, John. Agenda item number 13. Adopt a resolution to update the recorded footage of Carew. How do you say that? Carew. I remember, that being the situation in the past, me pronouncing that. Carew Harris Road. This is in R.C. Bubba Harris's district.
What it is, the DPW was going down and grading that section of road right there. And the new part of it is 2,379 feet. And while they were grading it, some people came out there raising sand, gonna call the news and everybody else because we was on private property. But it's public property. It's parish property, actually. And, that's just part of the overrun from the other deal that we done for Caleb Harris Race.
So from the blacktop, where the gravel starts is 2,379 feet?
Right.
To the gate?
Right.
Okay? And that's all parish, and there's the time. The
Yeah.
question that everybody was asking me is, why is it private road, sign posted? I said, because there's nowhere to turn around down there, so it wouldn't make sense to put a sign at the gate.
Right.
And people get down there with a trailer or something and go, uh-oh.
If y'all remember, the people that were really upset about it came and asked us to post a sign
At the
forward, so
front.
they didn't turn around
In
on
their
their
yards.
yard.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that's why the sign is posted
And
so
that's the
far.
same ones complaining.
But we just want this on record.
Okay.
Okay, so that's a motion, right?
Yes, it's a motion.
Motion by Bubba Harris to, sir,
Gerald Boyd.
I was gonna get him.
Oh.
Go ahead, Gerald.
So I would ask the parish to go there and make a turnaround for the people that's still driving back there to this gate and turning around on the private properties back there. Because they are tearing up their property. I went back there and visited this week. Let's help them people out too. At least put the turnaround so we're not tearing right at the gate.
Well, actually, it's not the people that live back there that
big
still
Yeah,
complaining.
I understand that, but the neighbor that, where the sign is now, the Harris lady, they turned around in her driveway also. So, but if we could, that's a Harris land back here too, but if we could give people access to turn around, if they missed that sign, that would help everybody out through the parish, right?
Well, and yeah, and
I
that's
agree
not a
with you.
problem.
I agree with you, Mr. Gerald.
The only thing is, that the people that were complaining and gonna get channel 2, 9, whatever out there, for all that stuff, said that we was on private property. But I just want to confirm that is.
That's what part you was doing, it. That's parish property.
Right.
So is there enough, well, you know what the right of way is on that road back there? I mean, typically,
I'm not sure.
yeah, see if we,
It's a dead end.
They gonna have to give the right of way to build the building.
So what are we trying to do? All we're doing is.
So they turn around on the property now, and I realize what you're saying.
That's what we did. We got DPW to give us the
Okay,
measurement.
so yeah, we just, this motion here and second here is just to extend, or update the recorded current footage by adding
Right.
2,379 feet.
Exactly.
And then we're gonna vote on that in just a second, but I mean, Gerald, I like that idea, so you have to go work out the details and maybe put that on the agenda again if.
Well, we're gonna have to,
For a
because
turnaround.
we gotta help these people out on their private property where they tearing it up. I
Right.
got photos of it all.
if it's feasible, I don't
It
think
is-
any of us got a big issue with that.
So, well, I'll add it on next time for Mr. Bubba,
Yeah.
and, we'll go from there. Thank you.
That's a great idea.
I'll second this motion.
Okay, so we got a motion and a second, go ahead, Angie.
So the agenda item is to update the current footage, so should we say for the resolution purposes what the footage
It's
stated?
2379.
We're updating it by adding 2,379?
Right.
So it's 2,379 feet.
Yep.
All right, cool.
Thank you.
Yep. Anybody else want to talk about this? All right, you got a motion and a second? All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? All right.
Bring it up.
Okay, agenda item number 14, this is a waiver request on setbacks to place a mobile home at 13094 Fox Street in Marpole, Louisiana. This happens to be in Mr. Randy DeLatte's district.
I would like to make that motion to accept the waiver.
Motion to grant the waiver by Randy DeLatte. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Gerald McMorris. Any discussion?
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
How much of the setback do they need?
Well, it shows on this little hand,
Well, I mean.
so what does it change it to? I think is what you're asking.
Yes.
Yeah.
They got 24 on the front.
Instead of 25.
Change one,
That's it?
No, but on
No,
the side that goes
I think
from
they
6
need the
to
waiver
1.
on, is there a waiver of 1 foot on one side? Wait, go ahead. Oh, never mind.
Okay, we got some people here to explain. Y'all go ahead.
My
State
name's-
your name and address.
My name's Eric Kitchens. I live on a lot next to it, also on these lots. The lot is 6 feet short for the offset. We had a surveyor come and combine 2 lots to take care of the side offsets. So we only need a waiver on front to back.
Okay.
6 feet short, 6 feet short.
All right, I'm good with that.
Okay,
Yeah, okay.
all right.
That's all good.
Let's call, we got a motion and a second already.
Call for vote.
Call for the, all in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Nope.
Thank you, Council.
Appreciate y'all. All right, this is agenda item number 15. This is a waiver request on drainage impact study for Beyond the Bayou. This is, I don't know what district this is in, but this is, Mr. Billy Taylor's here. Put this, requested to put this, be put on the agenda.
On the 58 meets, that's got to be
This one.
Randy or G.
Billy Taylor, Macklin Taylor. Yeah, this is Pettit Drive. It's Mr. Rainey's district. I spoke with him about it, and just want to give you a little bit of information so you know what we're asking. This is down in the Marpaw area off of Highway 22, and we brought a preliminary site plan for the project to y'all probably in September. Plan Commission approved it, Parish Council approved it. So we're going to ask for a waiver of the drainage study and just giving you a little information. So basically, I guess you call it Pettit 80 acres or whatever the name of it is. All these lots already exist along the river. So right now, it's an existing development. You could build a house right here, cover the whole lot up with a house, nothing in concrete, and they wouldn't have to have a drainage impact. So they can just go build it and cover the whole lot. So we're comparing it to that. The footprint that we're going to propose is not covering up the whole site, and we're also going to have some aggregate in there, which is partially pervious. So we'd like you to consider that. This property is going to drain directly to the Pettit Amite River, which is very close to the lake. We don't have a lot of downstream development, don't have any downstream properties or other things that we're draining through. So just wanted y'all to consider that. Talk with Mr. Sam. He doesn't have an issue with it either. And I think Chad's aware of what we're asking for. Y'all don't ask him any questions. And just so y'all know, we still have to go back to the planning department and the parish engineer with a detailed site plan and a detailed drainage plan if y'all accept this waiver. And our detailed drainage plan would have to show that we're not negatively affecting any of the neighbors with the drainage. So basically right now it just drains directly into the river. It's going to continue to do the same thing.
This is in the woods.
All right, Randy, go ahead.
This is in the woods, I'll make that up. Yeah.
So you, what did you say? You're making a motion?
Yeah.
You're making a motion to grant the waiver for the drainage impact study for Beyond the Bayou. It was made by Randy Delat, seconded by Tracy Girlinghouse. Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Nope.
When that stop here?
All right, agenda item number 16, this is a waiver request to add one additional lot to a private servitude totaling 6 lots. This is located on Old LA Highway 16 in Council District 2. This is Mr. Gary Talbert's district.
This actually used to be Highway 16, but when they went in and straightened it, it became a private servitude. So this person used to be on the highway, now he's off the highway, and he's asked for an additional lot. And
That's the little part that had the bad curve that they took out?
yeah, so if you were going, right before you got to St. Helena, if you turn right on Highway 64 and you took that first concrete, the asphalt road to the left, that used to be Highway 16, now it is a private servitude. And so I'd like to make a motion.
I second that.
Okay, we got too many seconds here.
They just pulled one of them out.
Okay, so got a motion on the floor to grant the waiver. And I think, Randy, you said you seconded that?
I think I heard Scooter.
Scooter seconded that. Okay.
Well, that's the way it's supposed to be.
We already got a motion, Scooter seconded it. And no more discussion here? Okay, let's vote. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? No one? All right. 17, this is a waiver request of section 125-3, prohibitions and restrictions of use to allow mobile home to be placed in a named subdivision for Susan Hopkins located at 10160 Saray Drive in Cox Acres.
There used to be a trailer there. Trailer disappeared. It was gone. They're trying to replace it because Cox Acres has never been on the list. It's got to be. This will be the first one. There are other trailers in there. I'd like to make a motion.
Okay, got a motion on the floor. Waiver request.
Second.
Put the trailer on the property. Second by Randy Delat. Any discussion?
Yes.
Oh,
there are trailers in there all right now.
Look at the pictures, they're everywhere.
There are trailers in there now, and there used to be a trailer on this lot before.
I wanted to say it out loud.
Yes.
Him, not you.
Okay, so we ready to vote? Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Nobody? Okay. Addition of roads for consideration to the capital outlay priority road list. This is Macy Drive, located in Driftwood Estates in Council District Number 7, which happens to be Mr. Tracy Gurlinghouse's district.
That's correct. And it's just like it says, just pretty bad shape on it, had it.
Well, I second it.
All right, got a motion on the floor to add it. Got a second by Randy Delatte. Any discussion? Nope. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? All right. Agenda item number 19. This is adopt a resolution to name an unnamed road off LA Highway 441 in Council District Number 9. But we don't have all the documentation, so we're going to defer this. Okay. This is agenda item number 22. Consideration to adopt a resolution establishing a citizens group to discuss a parish-wide drainage plan. Mr. Randy Delatte requested this be put on the agenda.
I know this is late, y'all, but I still need a few minutes. I want to start off by saying what this won't affect. This won't affect any drainage districts that are currently there now. Equipment, manpower, boards, boundaries, monies, any of that. What I'm trying to do is look at the big picture when we try to get money, whether it be by grant or try to put it in a capital outlay. We got to know where we're trying to get to. We all know that, like I said, it sounds like a broken record, but every drop of water that comes through the parish has to go to the lake, okay? And it gets there by Tickford River, Amet River, Gone River, the Diverter Canal, so forth. So we have to start from the bottom on up, but we have to have, we may not get enough money to do a project from the bottom on up. But if you get a advisory board of people that are knowledgeable about the water drainage and knowledgeable about our neighbors, you know, and some of those guys wasn't in here when I was speaking earlier, so I'm going to say it again. Tuesday night, the council, Central Parish Council, went in executive session and voted to give us 30 days to get off that lawsuit, or they're going to, in their words, attack us legally. And what that amounts to, y'all, is everybody says the interstate hold, you know, in 2016 held the money, water back. The railroads held the water back. And that's true. If they wouldn't have had the interstate walls and the railroad, maybe Walker and Watson and Denham wouldn't have flooded as bad. It could have spread out more. Maybe that's true. But let me tell you what contributed to that. That's the first time they was able to have all their pumps online, and that's the first time they in advance. They now do it all the time. They put their pumps on and they start pumping a week in advance. If there's a storm coming, anything out in the Gulf, it doesn't even have to save the trackers in Louisiana. They get it where the rivers is not even navigable, where you can't even put a boat in your river canal. So that makes all the lakes full, the level is high, all the Amet rivers high. People, when they used to have these 4-inch rain, people's roads would flood maybe, but they wouldn't get water into their homes. Now 4-inch rain means automatically water into homes down there. And what that is because all that water's been pumped out of Central. Now keeping in mind, a Central Parish where they pump out of is called AC Stretch. That area is elevation lower than the elevation where they pump to in Livingston Parish. So they have to build levees to hold the water back so when they pump over, or it would come back on them. They want to now raise Highway 22 and add more pumps, and that's what the litigation's about. The Livingston Parish says, no, we're not going to do that. And so far, Congressman Graves has even taken our sides in 2018. I don't know how long he's going to fight that fight, too. But what we're getting at over here is we don't have people as advisory people that can, committee that can know these things and start looking at different ways of doing things. You know, we got the master planning committee, we got the for dividing the property up, we got our regular planning committee. Something as important as drainage, we need to have a committee on that. And Mr. Gerald has done his committee has done a fantastic job, is my understanding, of getting $125,000 already as maybe some matching money or something. I would like him to talk about that, and then we'll come back to whether this is a good thing about appointing a committee or not.
Thank you, Mr. Randy. My name is Gerald Burns. I'm the chairman of the Master Plan Review Committee. Mr. Randy and I talked about this a couple times today, and also today. I've done some research. The Master Plan Review Committee, using the master plan, there's 8 pages of the master plan that addresses drainage in Livingston Parish. And one of the things that on page 70 is recommendation to create a master drainage plan for the growth areas of the parish. And our committee, talking to other people, including the parish president, decided that we would go parish-wide. So anyway, we come up with a figure of $500,000 to get started on it. So working with Mr. Mark Harrell, we had to have a 25% match to get a state grant and federal grant. So on December the 26th of 2019, Mr. Tracy Gerlenhouse made the motion to amend the 2020 budget to include $125,000, which is 25% of $500,000, and to get ready for the state grant, and that was approved by this council. They also made the motion to amend the budget to put up $62,500, which is 25% match on the master plan update, which is land use restrictions and new maps and et cetera. So that money was appropriated back in December of 2019 to do $500,000, and of course we were working with Mr. Mark Harrell then, and Mr. Harrell got sick, and I think he retired maybe, I don't know. But then the pandemic hit, so things kind of stopped. But I haven't been successful in finding out where we at on these grants. Why haven't we petitioned the state to get these grants, to do your parish-wide master plan and update the master plan? I haven't been successful in finding that out. I don't even know who the grant writer is of the parish now. So do y'all know who the grant writers are for the parish?
From what I understand, Jennifer's in charge, and Steve Kistler's working under her to write the grants. But I think, to the best of my knowledge, I think what we need to do here.
Well,
one thing's for sure is to clarify that. From what I understand, Tracy, correct me if I'm wrong, or maybe Jeff, I'm sorry. It's in the budget. It's in the 2021 budget. We put some funding in the 2021 budget.
It's in the 2020 budget.
It's in the 2020 budget.
I thought she said 2020 we put it in. I think she said she rolled it over. I think she rolled it over in this budget.
We need to make sure it's on the line in there, because if not, it ain't in there.
She told me it was.
I think she rolled it into this budget.
So she rolled the money into 2021.
The match money's been rolled into 2021.
The match money is.
So it's there, right? The money's in the bank, so it's
probably out on the application
for the parish, and so we need to.
I think I'm gonna send an email.
And it's the same amount.
I'm gonna send an email and ask and find out the answer to that question.
And I have, Mr. Gerald, I mean, I echo your frustrations on the grant writing process.
Right. Well, I still have all the documentation that we sat down with Mr. Mark Harrell in detail why we need these grants, and I was looking at them earlier today. So if we find out who the new grant writer is, then I'll be glad to sit down with him and give him this same information to see if we can move forward in getting the money, the grants. I know we're running way behind now, but.
So, Mr. Chairman,
go ahead.
Based on this information Mr. Gerald has presented us with and what we have came up with, I would like to propose that we set up a board. And I had a rough idea in my head, but y'all may have different numbers or different people, a different way to do things. I'm not sure, but I do think it's too important not to have an advisory board set up that can explore some of these things. And I would ask that y'all would agree with me and we appoint a committee for that.
How
We'd
many
like to
people
talk
you
about
want?
clarification. What did you say?
No, I'm gonna ask him how many people you want to put on it.
I was thinking
I have a question,
I wanted to get
Mr.
some
Randy.
clarification. Go ahead. Mr.
I have a question. On the agenda here, it talks about creating, a citizens group to discuss a parish-wide master drainage plan. But my question to you, is it a committee of lay people in the parish, or is it professional people, engineers and drainage, consultants? Because we already have our group, that's the lay people, the community.
I was gonna ask that. I mean, do you
We
think
work
that-
real hard to get to this point.
Go ahead, Randy.
My idea would be a different group, Mr. Gerald. Not that you didn't work hard, but not to take nothing away from what you already done, but you still have a lot to go to get started. There's still 2 grants out there. One with the master plan that has to get done, and that's gonna take a lot of public hearings and a lot of educating the citizens. And you have a board to help you do those things. That's gonna be a full-time job by itself. The drainage board is gonna have to be someone that people know. It could be a builders that know what's going on, how drainage affects them. It could be people who live on the rivers, but they do need professional people.
Sure.
And you would have to have people that the parish engineer would be one that would be included. When you get too many professional people on board, sometimes we get bogged down like we are on some of our other projects. We need common sense people that's not gonna take no for an answer and keep the pressure on
Right.
and keep going. And not to take nothing away from you, at all. Y'all done a fantastic job, and I expect them to work with what y'all have already looked at. But they still continue needing to, talking about drainage is more than clearing lateral ditches and clearing rivers. It's how we're gonna get the water to get down there. And I'm telling you, every day our challenge changes because of our neighbors. And it needs someone that's gonna be able to do this full time and not have to worry about having public hearings to make somebody mad about zoning in a rural area. I think those two have to be separate, I really do. I think the plan, I know we call it master drainage, but it's parish drainage. It's looking at the drainage parish-wide. And we still got districts that's gonna be funded, and we still have districts that's not funded. And that's a hard thing for people to accept. But as I tell people over and over, in District 8, at 10 mil tax, that's only $80,000. You don't even buy a backhoe, because we don't have business there. You got 3 restaurants, where you gonna get the money from? The property is homestead exempt. Where are you gonna get the money from? So most people most parishes, there's more parishes that have parish-wide drainage than there are that don't have it.
Well, our goal was to get the 500,000.
And you did a good job doing that.
That
You
was what we
did a
were trying to
good
do.
job doing
And if
that.
we were successful in getting that for the parish, then that money would be given to whatever group you want to name, or professional people to hire consultants to do what you want to do.
And that's.
But we never got to that point, so we're back to square one. How do we get to that point? How do we get these
So
grants?
then I was asked by somebody how many members, and that could be debatable. I would like to see everyone get a member on there. I'd also like to see a Waterway Commission member on there, and any at-large members that you feel necessary,
So,
Go ahead, Scooter.
so if we create this commission or committee, they're gonna come to us with any findings, and we'll have to approve anything they come up with?
They would only be advisory board. We don't even have to approve what they bring to us.
Right.
We
No, that's
don't-
what I mean, we wouldn't
don't-
have to.
We wouldn't even have
But
to.
if we said this is fantastic, then we would, yeah.
They may say, look,
Shane.
I'm coming. I'm coming.
I'm sorry.
Go, no, you Randy, finish.
They may say that, we know that this is a bottleneck for us right here, but we don't have the money or the time to do this bottleneck, but we do have it number 2 on the list, because we could go forward on this project here. We at the mercy of administration, what administration brings to us. We're at that mercy. And when we get a grant from Congressman Graves or anybody else, boy, everybody expects you to get that job done within a year or 2. And it don't work that fast.
Well, I mean,
So other people could be aware of the same thing we're aware of, and there'd be a tool also to communicate back to the people in the community. It won't just be us
I
as
see what
elected
you, I see where you're
officials.
getting with that, yeah.
I just wanted to say a few things, you know, as we talk and discuss how we're gonna do this or if we're gonna do this. To me, the master plan review committee, the one Mr. Gerald's referring to, their purpose and intent was to update the current Livingston Parish master plan, you know, and in doing so, more specifically, to update the master drainage plan and to include, you know, how zoning and if we, how are we gonna do that, you know, and that type of thing, right? And update the actual master plan itself that we felt was outdated. And they were working towards that very hard, very productive. Corona came, and when we shut down for Corona back in March, April, you know, we canceled a few council meetings and got a general idea of what we were dealing with, you know, as a society there. We canceled those master planning committee meetings, and so it has kind of been a while since they've met and got to talk about, you know, the future and all that type of stuff. That being said, though, I think that they're ready to begin meeting again and pursuing their purpose. Now, one thing to note, I've attended some of those meetings, but those are meetings within this council chamber, you know, with, I think they're announced publicly, and we hardly ever get anybody to show up. And to me, I mean, it's just a thought, not that we can't go that route that you're talking about, you know. I 100% agree that what we need is public input, you know, the people that have the good ideas, you know, and that have been around for a long time and kind of know water flows and all these different things, you know, and what causes flooding and all that type of stuff, you know. But to me, I mean, all that may be possible to be achieved through the current master drainage committee or planning committee, you know, if those individuals that we're referring to that would be on this committee could show up, get involved, and maybe even be appointed to that committee, you know. I just not opposed to that, you know, in any way, shape, or form. I think that the discussion now, that, to be quite honest with you, the 1% sales tax is passed. It's an awesome thing to take care of the roads in Livingston Parish, which is one problem, but we all know that probably equally as important, or probably the number one problem, is drainage and flood prevention, and that there does need to be more discussion and action and a plan, and then we need to go take action to pursue that plan or implement that plan and all that good stuff, you know. So my only thought is the purpose of this committee is to come up with those steps that you're referring to improve drainage, to address the problems. That's the purpose of this committee. So this committee over here, it's almost like we're gonna have two committees with the same purpose to me. And so, I'm gonna let you go. So it's just a thought. I mean, what you don't want is you don't want this committee over here to work on a master plan and come up with all the steps and everything, and then this committee over here to have a totally opposite plan, and then two committees trying to communicate to the parish government that, you know, this plan, that's just my thoughts. So just kind of, I think everybody, this is a very important agenda item. I think everybody should kind of communicate, don't express how they truly feel about this, because what we need to do over the next 3 years is put a plan together, decide what needs to be done, and make it happen. So go ahead, Randy.
Okay, and I respect your opinion, and that is a good thought. Don't mean my thought, I have a different opinion, don't mean my opinion is right either. The reason why I think we need two different committees, y'all, is we're gonna bog them that down. We don't have a master drainage plan. That's why we can't update one. We don't have one.
That was their purpose, to get one.
All right, but their purpose also was for zoning. And if we bog them just down on drainage is important, too important to be tied up with something else. Drainage is too important to be tied up. I'm telling you, when those guys come and meet, they work their butt off for 2 hours, 3 hours, their meeting, and then what they do after the meeting, they gonna get spread out. You know, this guy right here, when he's gonna say drainage and master planning in the same sentence, it ain't gonna work. Nothing's gonna work if he says drainage and master planning. I'm committed for the zone, okay? I'm committed. I live in a rural area, and my people are not gonna be committed, and it's gonna take time to make them to understand that. And that's what these committee and master planning was about, was mostly zoning and how we can help people.
Right.
It wasn't about fixing roads, it wasn't about fixing the drainage. Now, we threw that on them, and they did a good job by getting that money. We threw that on them. And I don't wanna take nothing away from him. I wanna use what they have already done and got, and get this committee to go ahead and get back, and they can get with the community, people in the community, and tell them what's going on. Instead of 9 members, you got another 9, which makes 18 people working in the community besides your councilman. And that makes a difference. That's why I want it.
Okay, so, just know too, it wasn't just a master plan. In the master plan, the biggest priority was a master gravity drainage plan that would, detail, how the whole system works and list out project improvements to fix the problems we have and that type of thing. You know, it wasn't all about development. You know, some of it was, but a lot of that part is, you know, needs some minor touch up. But that there was a master gravity drainage plan within that master plan that was the #1 priority for that group.
I think Randy hit it on the head when he said, people in my district aren't interested in zoning, but they interested in drainage. So I think when you talk about public, you know, input, if you go tell them, you know, start off with, I think part of the problem, we meet the same place all the time, and I think we need to travel around the parish. I mean, I think, you know, 1 month the meeting ought to be, you know, down in your area. And it needs to move around and go to different places. And I think there'll be some people that'll be excited about going to drainage. They don't care nothing about zoning. And so I understand Randy's desire to do it. I have seen it before. Sometimes great ideas, a committee is just a place for a great idea to go and die. So if, you know, I mean, I'll support you on this thing, but I think that, you know, if we're gonna do it, we need to move it around and so that, and if you concentrate on drainage, I think that there'll be people that'll attend. I got a phone call yesterday from a guy who said he was talking about drainage. I said, look, we're gonna I'll serve on it. I wanna be on it. He lives in your district, on property in my district, but he wants to serve. So I think it'll be, yeah, he is back there. So I think there are definitely people that will be excited about drainage that have no intention of ever coming to a master plan, you know, meeting. And so if Randy make the motion, 9 members or whatever, I'll be glad to support him on it, you know, with a second.
Appreciate that, Gary. Tracy, you got something to say?
Yeah. I think if you look back at why we formed the master plan committee, and that was to update the master plan. It seems like a lifetime ago. Well, we realized that it would cost more money to update the master plan than if we just adopted it as it was. So that's what we did. I think that, and we shifted the master plan to handle the details of changing the master plan piece by piece instead of just, you know, ideally what, I guess the original idea was change it to match what we are facing today as we were 10 years ago whenever they tried to pass it. And it's considered, there's the needs, the parish have changed considerably in that time frame. So we adopted it as it was, as they spent, I don't know, how much money they spent first time. 200, it was all a grant, you know, but
it was up there.
Yeah. Yeah, so, and to be quite honest, I mean, my driving force was on. Of course, you know, the drainage is a huge issue. I have to agree with Mr. Gillette on this, I think. If I'm just being honest, I mean, I think that you're gonna be people that want zoning. I think that's more of a, I mean, the drainage is a problem for everybody. Zoning is only a problem for the people who are being inundated. You know, but if you don't have to have a crystal ball to see where we're at today. You will be there one day. Your district will be there one day if you do not address zoning now, like we should have done in the 80s, 90s.
And that's why I'm for it.
Yes.
That's why I know.
I mean, it's, you know, it's coming. So you need to get ahead. But I think in principle agree that, you know, if you're going to address, you have, it's hard for one committee to tackle both of those if you're going to be serious about both of them. And I do believe we need to be serious about both of them. Yes. You know, as Mr. Mack alluded to, you know, the tax is passed, and that was, you know, paramount. Without that, you know, I don't know if people appreciate how much trouble this parish was in without that. But going forward, you know, drainage, zone, all these things are going to be the forefront, at least for me, I'm sure for Mr. Gillette. So if his wish is to form a committee to address that, then I'm for that as well.
So go ahead, Mr. Bubba.
I agree with everyone on the drainage, but like in my area, probably Frogs area, Scooters area where we have drainage, and Tracy's area, I think the major concern is zoning right now. We need to discuss the zoning more than we do drainage.
Which is why I tend to agree with Mr. DeLuca.
Yeah.
Separated.
So I came Tuesday night to the planning, I'm sorry.
No, rock on, man.
Chair. I came Tuesday night concerning the drainage for our districts.
Yep.
Not just mine, all of ours.
Yep.
These people who go out there and identify these creeks, Fielder's Creek, identify them, pass it on, get it back to them, to the parish government, how bad we need it to keep the people from Joe May Road from flooding every time it rains, because it bottlenecks there from all the subdivisions we approved over the last 20 years. Has nowhere to go. So I'm going to support him.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you make a motion.
Okay, so they had a couple of people in the audience that wanted to say something. Anybody? Come on up, man. Introduce yourself, state your name and address. We're going to get you too, buddy.
You walk like I feel like I feel.
You've been sitting a long time to talk about this.
Yeah.
All of us.
My name is Brian Clemens. I live at 30877 Barnett Lane. I also have property up on Robbie Lee Drive. This all came live for me a couple months ago when I got a flyer in the mail that pretty much said, we're coming to take your land away from you. And so by and by, I found out they were having a drainage board meeting, and I put my war paint on with a couple of my neighbors, and we went down there, and we accosted Scooter and Mr. Gary Talbot.
Y'all did very well.
We bushwhacked them, and I'm proud to say that they both gave me the time of day, and a couple of times, both of them, and y'all handled yourself very well. And you sold me on your plan in that particular case, and I appreciate the way you handled it. I do have some concerns. Our drainage districts do not align with our council districts. Now, I do not know how you're managing the tax issues there. That has got to be a nightmare. Every 10 years you redraw a line, but the drainage lines stay the same. So you have people that are paying taxes and not getting the benefit thereof. You have people that are getting the benefit but not getting a vote on it. I don't know how you're going to solve this one. I really don't. But I would suggest that you reapportion the drainage district lines every time you reapportion the council district
Well,
lines.
it's a millage, so it's voted through that way.
Well,
It's pretty difficult, but there's a lot to talk about.
You need to have something that you can adjust, because when you move council lines, now you have people that are disenfranchised. But that's just part of the issue. My biggest issue was Beaver Creek. And as y'all know, most of us that live up there that area, we feel that Highway 16 has a culvert that's insufficient to the task. And if that area was bigger, or if they'd straighten out that creek a little bit there, there's a couple things you could do. And then there's another issue on Beaver Creek, on the very top end of the East Branch. You have a place where somebody has gone through and straightened it out. Well, the Army Corps of Engineers wants to know who did it so they can make them accountable for it. And until that's done, they're not going to let anybody clean out all the trash and trees that's in it. So at some point in time, the parish is just going to have to step up and say, fine, we'll take responsibility. Let's take our licks, whatever's going to happen. We're going to have to address that situation. But you see, there's a lot of things that fall in between the cracks. They're not meshing perfectly. And I'd like to see a group that does nothing but make certain all those pieces come together.
This is a gentleman that wants to serve something you would love to serve.
So that'd be my
Well,
point.
Well, I mean, we talk.
I think that, the only way to really address it, what you were said earlier, they form a drainage district, like my gravity district is, let's say, this big. Now, and next, when they after the census that gets complete, my district, my physical council district is going to shrink proportionally, because people have moved in, and basically you take the population of the parish, you divide it by 9, and that's how many people, more people have moved into my district than have moved out.
But they do it precinct by precinct, correct?
Well,
No, sir.
no.
No, the boundary district lines are drawn up when they form the district, and they don't change unless the council proposes a change, and then the people vote on
You're
it.
talking about the
Oh, gravity granule.
The drainage district, yeah, the drainage district.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So if you lived in this, you lived in like where you live now, and you are in your district one, then
I got property in both the
and you're
districts.
in a drainage district, the parish council, you won't ever leave that district, and, I mean, hypothetically, you just stay there.
I think Mr. Clemens in our phone conversation, I think he agrees that ultimately parish-wide drainage is the most important. I think if, and if I'm putting words in your mouth, tell me, but
A unified
I mean,
district,
I think a unified district is the thing to do, and his thought process to get there was that if people had little districts that they felt like they were part of, as a council district, so to speak, then you get people involved, you might get a whole unified. Because if you think about it, you look at gravity, or what would have been gravity, was it 7 and 8? I mean, those are huge districts.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I'm talking about? And so people don't feel like they, that they're in that
They
big,
belong. They
in
don't
that
feel
big
it.
district that they fix one thing and it might not really impact it. You know what I'm talking about? And if the smaller you get the district, the more impactful it is on the people. You fix a canal and it's more impactful on the people in the district. But ultimately, the goal would be to get the parish-wide gravity drainage, which I think we've all kind of identified from the beginning. But people who have funded districts are concerned where that revenue would lead to. There's been a lot of stuff talked about it. But
And ultimately too, in that regard, because we're more densely populated in my district, your district.
Right.
And they're not, those areas, that like Mr. Randy's district is geographically bigger.
But way less
Same
people.
amount of people,
Well.
but, and there are a lot of factors involved, like, that our guys go out and they do stuff every day they go out and do something. And in order to get there, and you would have to get equipment, you would have to hire people, it's a mind-boggling to start off.
Well, what you're talking about, if you look at Gravity District 2, is actually covered by 3 different councilmen. Scooter and Gary, and I believe you, Mr. Harris, also, is that correct?
No, Jeff.
Okay. Well, what's your priority?
Yeah.
Get water out.
Sure, but you have got to prioritize and say, the greater number of people that I represent are here. And really, my greatest responsibility is to the largest number. And I've got these people here, I'm sorry, I've really got to dedicate myself to that.
Well, but you see, we don't actually run the drainage districts. we appoint the members, we appoint the board. That's an independent
Have a supervisor
funded.
that runs it.
independent-
He saw something the other day that made him think different.
While we're on this subject,
I understand, but you need to, understand that we appoint those members.
I do understand it.
And as a councilman, like, my entire district is in a flooded drainage district.
Lucky you.
Yeah, thank you, Lord.
Thank you, but
And I have a
If-
very
if-
small portion of that water.
So he can't, I would have to say, when it comes to the funded drainage district, he can't think about the people in his district that aren't in the funded district. And if he tries to, whoever's drainage district he's in is gonna remind him real quick, you cannot do that.
On this same
That's
subject
on the
about
list.
appointing
To me,
members,
it's on the
Go ahead.
2/3 has done.
if I may, while we're talking about appointing members, we had two board members up there at District 2 that recently moved on. They both served in excess of 20 years. They were there when there was one rake and one shovel, and each one of them held one. And I think that they deserve our thanks and some recognition. I'd like to ask y'all
Yes,
to do
sir.
that. And I appreciate your time this evening.
All right, thank you for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Clement.
Okay, is anybody else? Come on up, buddy. We're gonna get you two.
Brian, how's your daughters doing?
How's your kids?
I'm David Watts, 22997 Highway 42, right down here in Old Centerville, where the great courthouse used to sit at one time. My great-grandfather's pictures on the courthouse. He was a sheriff here at one time. I live on the Great Tickfall River. It gets missed most of the time. Amy kind of takes the game because it's closer to Denham Springs. But I was an advocate to cleaning the trees out of the river. Let's get the trees out. Let's get the trees out. Now, I'm in my 40s. I've lived there my whole life. I fish that river daily. If I'm not working, I'm in that river. So we pulled the trees out. Well, I'm happy y'all pulled the trees out. Can I tell y'all how bad it hurt the river? It has silted the river in where I could run a 25 Mercury through there. I'm down to a 5 horsepower now. If you jump off the river bridge, when I was a kid, kids could jump off the river bridge on Highway 42. If you jump off it now, you're dead. It's about 2 foot deep. The river, when we took the logs out of the river, it sped the river up, and it washed the banks, and now the banks are sloughed off. These big high cliff banks we have where I'm at, this clear water, the river sloughed off. Where the river I set nets at 20-foot holes, now it's 8 to 10-foot holes. So we've lost volume in the river due to taking the logs out. And I don't know what answer it is to that. I spoke to Mr. Randy about this a few weeks ago, and I called when I noticed the sandbars changing in the river. Department of Homeland Security was running the log removal. They was overseeing that. So I called up there and voiced my concern. Somebody come right on the river and look at this with me. Tell me what we've done something wrong here. The diversion canal was put in way before I was born. And now look at, we fighting that mistake now. And I'm not saying a mistake, we're fighting that choice of the past now that the Ament River's dying because the weir's settled. So now we hear, I'm listening to y'all trying to address this today. Taking them trees out, I believe was a mistake.
Can I say something about that?
Sure.
There's a lot of people that had differences of opinions on whether or not that project, was going to have negative impacts, positive impacts, that type of thing. Some of the things you said is true. It did speed up the flow, okay? It did wash out some banks and cause other trees to fall in the river.
Yes.
But I don't believe it silted in. I think what happened is when the trees were removed, the dams were removed, and it actually lowered the water level and increased the capacity and flow rate of the Tickfall River. So there was some negative, but in the end, I think it was a very positive project that improved and prevented flooding along the Tickfall River.
Okay, let me make this point. Once again, I'm in my 40s. I've lived there my whole life, and I've noticed the river has changed course below my house. One major event changed the course of the river. It took probably a half-mile section out of the river and moved it. It created an island and an oxbow. Gerald Boyd probably knows where I'm talking about below my house. Right now, the next 2 high waters, if I'm gonna say this, well, maybe not that, the next big flood event will change the course of the river again. It's gonna blow through again and change it. I know that I can take pictures of it and show you. where it's fixing to take. And I can show you these huge cliffs that's just manned off and just filled these holes up in the river. I have proof of that. I can bring, and I've asked people to come ride on the river with us there, because there's no boat landing where I'm at. I own the only boat landing. And I will gladly bring people down there and let them look what I'm looking at. Was there a benefit? Maybe so. But there was also a negative impact.
There were some negative, but I think in the end it was a good thing. Go ahead, Randy.
I don't have the 100% answer for that, but part of the reason that happened, and he's correct in everything he's saying, part of the reason that happened, and I do think there was a benefit, is that you don't start from the bottom, guys. The river got deeper than the lake is where the outlet is. So now it is settling in right below where you at. And if our lake is filled up, and that's where you gotta start. The only thing that's deep enough to drain us right now is the pass. You have to start working from the pass. That's why I try to get the shell dredging, where private business can come and do that, because we didn't have the money to do that. But if we could just get a channel from each one of the rivers to meet, then you can get the water out. But the lake is so shallow, it's, but shell dredging, I know is an environmental thing, or was in the 80s, I don't know if it is now. They dredge all over the place, they just seem that they can't dredge anywhere that helps Livingston Parish. They can dredge the Mississippi River, they can dredge anywhere, but they can't dredge anywhere that helps Livingston Parish. I can't understand that.
Well, I'll thank y'all for this time. I just wanted to this is my first meeting I ever come to, and I will be at more.
Thanks for
I
coming.
made a mistake not giving my opinion.
That's how we solve problems with people like you showing up. Go ahead, man. Come on up.
My name is Patricia, and the last name is Genre. And I live on Wax Road in Denham Springs. First of all, I want to say I'm a huge fan of zoning, and thank you for stepping up to do that. But that's not my priority. Mine is definitely flooding since August 12th, 2016. And thank you, Mr. DeLapp, for saying that whatever you can do, whatever I can do on my part to help it, because I can't sleep at night when it rains. I can't, every time there's something in the Gulf, I start picking up, I make my plan to leave. It has changed me as a person. And so whatever I can do to stop this, to make it better, I'll volunteer, for sure. We were stranded in our neighborhood till 9:30 that night. Then we were on the side of Pete's Highway and Wax Road for another 2.5 hours till Mr. DeLapp on Wax Road brought us down to Walmart, where we were on Vincent Road, where we were on an island for 18 hours. We stayed there with no water, no food, no bathroom. There were people there part of that time that had guns on their hip and different things. There were some people that were threatening to loot Walmart. It was terrifying. Thank God we were in Denham Springs and not New Orleans, because I don't know if I'd be here. So what I'm saying to you is I don't think I can, if it happens again, I'm moving. And I'm a hometown girl. I've lived here my whole life. So I beg you to do whatever you can, and I'm willing to do my part. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Well, go ahead, Jeff.
Randy, I support you on this, but I'm gonna ask one thing of all the ones that have a drainage district. We need to have someone off of them drainage districts on this board. Because they're already working now doing things. They can help us. We need to have them incorporated in it to where they're truly bringing everything in the parish together.
I think that's a good idea, to be honest. The other good idea I heard is what what Talbot said about maybe moving the meetings around, getting more people involved.
I think that's good.
The lady from Wax Road, that was pretty powerful testimony, y'all. With that testimony, I don't want y'all to forget what I've been preaching. Ascension Parish in 2016 has put the additional pumps and has started pumping aggressively and that's where our problem starts. I know that the interstate wall is a problem. I know the interstate's blocking water. I know the railroad track blocks water. But the reason it can't get out, y'all, because the water is already there before the storm and rain even gets to us.
We gotta
It's
clear that
already-
issue first.
And we gotta fix that issue too. And we got to get a committee that's gonna get and fight this stuff.
Make a motion.
I'd make a motion.
I'll say
Wait,
second.
before I make the motion. how
Okay,
many
so we need to
members
get a
y'all
few
want?
things straight, though.
How many members y'all want?
What's the motion? Yeah, there you go. What's the
Before
motion
let's
for?
discuss.
Well, I mean, you said there's nine councilmen, so we need 9 members for that. You said somebody from the Waterway Commission would be 10. You want somebody from the parish president's office, because in theory, we talked about grant stuff, but you need somebody because, you know, they've written the first round of the Watershed Initiative grant, which is the most viable money out there right now for funding with respect to drainage issues. And there's actually, Gravity 2 got a kind of a drainage study for their district is part of the first round preliminary funding that's gone through it. So it looks like 11 members would get everybody a voice in it that needs a voice. I mean,
Would that get the drainage districts on there too?
well, I mean, we just need to get somebody to put
If
somebody.
you have a drainage district, that could just be.
I mean, we could, look, so we got 3 of us in Gravity, we got 3 of us in Gravity 2, there's 4 of them that got Gravity 1, 2 or 3, we got 3 and 5. So I'm sure we can get between those people, we can get representatives from those things. There are other citizens that have said they want to step forward, so I think 11 will get you representation of Gravity drainage districts.
We can always add some if we see we need something.
Okay.
Need less.
You think you need less?
I mean,
Well, I mean, I think that's some of the things that we need to decide as a group on how we're gonna move forward, you know, in the very near future.
You wanna
You know,
form
you
it
do
and-
have,
and
you
look
do
at it
have
for the
gravity
next
drainage
meeting and see how
districts
many?
6 and 7 that have board members, but that it's unfunded. The 80% of Livingston Parish is unfunded, you know, and you know about as well as I know that it's pretty hard to get anything done without any money in any way, shape, or form. So, I mean, maybe that'd be some of the objective of this board, you know, like,
Yeah, and to be honest with you, Shane, I understand, and the disappointing thing is that the Watershed Initiative, all you gotta be is a governmental entity. You don't have to you don't have to have any particular source make the application. So Gravity 7 and Gravity 8 could have easily made application within the Watershed Initiative, and I think they just weren't aware, and so this thing can help, you know, educate them along those lines so that they're able to realize where they can get some funding, some funding for that stuff, so.
So what I recommended is let's form a committee tonight. Let's look at it over the next, we got 3 weeks till the next meeting, and then decide exactly how many we think we need. I mean, we can make it 11 tonight, or make it 9, but we're not gonna appoint them tonight anyhow. So if we get it right, and the December, is it 3rd?
Okay, I'm gonna make a motion that we form that committee with the members to be appointed at the next meeting.
Okay,
I'll
yeah.
second that.
And then we'll talk.
okay, and
a
we're
little
gonna
bit-
shoot for, I mean, it don't have to be in the resolution or whatever, but, so we're gonna shoot for 11 board members, one appointment per councilman? Is that what we do?
And that's
And
y'all
then,
decide.
the parish president is gonna appoint, administrator?
Somebody administrative,
So
somebody from
that's
the Waterway.
10, and then we're gonna appoint somebody else, what'd you
The
say?
Waterway Commission wants.
A member of the Waterway Commission,
So at least 11.
so at least 11.
That's
Yeah,
pretty
Everybody
good.
try to find them someone.
I think I'm done.
we also have a motion to recognize Mr. Kemp and Mr. Tim.
Oh,
We're gonna talk, we got an item coming up on that in a second.
Okay, so, we got a motion, maybe pass a resolution or something to form the
Yes.
committee or something? We got a motion, what was you gonna say?
In order to second.
Yeah.
So it's just
Got a motion by Randy, second by Ard.
No specs
Uh,
specific.
The members to be appointed later.
Yeah, we're
well,
gonna pass a
let's see what the
resolution
committee's for.
that, I don't know if it needs to be a resolution, but basically that, you know, we're gonna take a vote to form this committee, and, we're gonna appoint the members to the committee in the next, council meeting.
All in
Okay,
favor?
so all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody up here opposed? All right. Agenda item number 23. Discussion and review of noise ordinance variance requested by Block Builders LLC for work being done off of Village Lane in Dillon Springs, Louisiana.
Terry Thompson.
Come on up.
With Block Builders. Address is 26989 Denham Springs.
The reason I'm requesting it is I'm the superintendent on site. We try to pour our concrete at night so as not to impact traffic, school buses, children in the area, things of that nature. We do have some tenants that are a tenant that continually calls in a noise complaint. The Denham Springs Police Department has responded each and every time.
Are you inside the city limits of Denham?
Yes, sir. It's right on Buddy Ellis, Village Lane.
That's outside the city limits.
Okay.
Sure that ain't the marshal?
It's maybe the marshal. I could be confused. I'm
That's
sorry.
okay.
I just know these guys have had to respond out there to every one of the calls.
It's not the sheriff's office.
The marshal or the sheriff?
Sheriff's office.
Okay, all right.
And every time they have to respond, it's taking an hour to an hour and a half of their time installing our trucks. We have not gone over the decibels at all. They've requested that I ask for a variance, because if I can give them that letter, they do not have to respond anymore. And we will have a multiple of about another 5 to 7 pours this year.
Whose district's this in?
It's in Bubba's, but.
It's in mine.
You okay with it, Bubba? What you
Well,
want to
the
do?
problem is, we can't vote on it tonight because the public hearing's advertised for the 3rd.
I got a question now. I mean, why can't we just adopt a resolution, Mr. Moody? I mean, is given a variance for our temporary variance? I mean, when's this, you expect this to finish, this project?
Yeah, the ordinance itself provides for the procedure for asking for.
You gotta have a public hearing for a variance.
You can't just do a moratorium on the ordinance for this
No.
specific?
Well, I guess you could do anything.
I mean, the ordinance lays out how you issue a waiver on noise.
Okay, well,
And so you gotta advertise for a public hearing,
I
which has
understand.
been done.
I
until the-
understand.
so the
But
3rd.
here's my thought. He's requesting this just so when the sheriff shows up, he can shows that he has support of this council. If we pass a resolution, he's got a document now showing that it's a parish council's wish to leave him alone. Till when is this finished?
We're hoping to be have all the concrete on the ground by the end of December.
I mean, Chris, don't you think that would suffice?
Well, I mean, I guess you could say, under circumstances, you're gonna give them a 3-week variance until public hearing, and if there's some opposition to it at that time,
Then we'll pick it up then.
Pick it up again. So.
Okay. You like that?
We will publish this notice of public.
Yeah, you still have to move to publish the request for the variance and give them a temporary variance.
Should we read this and send
Okay, so what level have they been testing the noise at?
It's been anywhere between 50 to a max of 60, and that's because I've moved the generators over that we use the lights on closer to Village Drive so that we don't shine the lights towards the other apartment units. We've had a lot of the other tenants that are very happy with what we're doing. We've turned off sirens, backup alarms, everything we can do to keep the noise down to a minimum.
I mean, it's construction, we all deal with it. It's-
Oh, yes.
I would rather him working at night than during the day when the kids are getting on and off school buses.
Right, I agree.
Well, I've
I thought
been
the
there.
same thing.
I was a builder, and Mr. Talbot also, he knows what it's all about, pouring concrete. And it's not an easy thing, I mean,
And it makes
why we on this, Mr. Tom Delahaye had called me the other day and said, get ready. Said, we're gonna start driving piles. Same area. Of course, the pilings are gonna be there already, and the equipment's gonna be there. It's not like a concrete truck going up and down, you know, disturbing everybody, so.
Can they drive the piles during the day, during?
We do.
Yeah,
Sorry,
that's what the
yes,
plan is.
We do. We drive the piles during the day. I do not allow deliveries during the school bus hours. Again, trying to impact as minimal as possible. The piles do make noise, but yet we've had 0 complaints on that. It's just one gentleman complains when we set up pour concrete at every concrete pour.
Make that motion, Bubba, and let's move on.
All right, I'm offering to make motion to, give them a waiver.
3-week
weeks.
waiver until the next meeting.
Yeah.
So Chris, we can give a waiver even though we have a specific.
He just said it here a while ago.
It doesn't say you can't give a temporary waiver. So, I mean, you know, if some emergency popped up, like you're gonna miss out on a job or you're missing on a big opportunity.
In an effort to create
So
a
you're not giving a
safer,
permanent
in an effort to
variance
create
here.
a safer environment
Right.
for the public, I think
So-
we can grant a temporary
But
waiver.
we'll have a public hearing in 3 weeks on it?
Yeah.
We're gonna-
Yeah, I think any time beyond that, you would have to have the public hearing to see if there's any opposition, and your votes may change.
Right.
And the weather's right now for pouring concrete.
Oh, it's right.
So-
Yes, right.
I second the motion.
Motion by Mr. Bubba to grant the temporary
Call for a vote.
waiver, second by John Wascom.
We'll vote.
Mr. Gary's request we call for the vote. I call for the vote.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Mr. McMorris?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Grindhouse? Mr. Ord, oh, sorry. Mr. Gurley?
No.
Mr. Ord?
Yes.
Mr. Key?
Yes.
Mr. Walton?
Yes.
Mr. Townsend?
No.
Mr. Mack?
Certainly, yes.
All right.
Passed.
Okay, you good. Come see us in
Okay.
3 weeks.
So we got a plan there. 24, consideration to adopt a resolution for a waiver of section 6-30B, which prohibits the granting of an alcohol permit to a business within 500 feet of a church being located off of Lockhart Road in Council District 3. This is in Maurice Scooter King's district.
Yes, sir. Mr. Turner?
I've read this and I can't figure out whether you're want to do it or not, the way it's worded.
Well-
On the ballot.
Well, I guess, you know, there was a lot of confusion last time, and I think we've got some clarification.
Lots of clarification. Signs up?
They posted a sign, I don't think there's been anybody called
Not
or
one
complained. We do know that we've got to waive the whole, if we waive the whole 500 feet, then the state will consider that a waiver of their 300 feet. And so that,
Yeah.
we
that's
can't,
correct.
if we waive down only to the state, then they're gonna continue to measure, so you gotta wait for 500 feet. They only want it for package,
Off premises consumption.
off-premise consumption.
That's
So
right.
in our parish, it's called a Class B and whiskey permit.
And we have the letter from the church.
And we verified with the state, so
Who made that
I make
motion?
the motion.
I second.
So,
We just gonna
okay,
wait.
I mean, that's.
So call for the vote.
we're basically,
Adopt
we're
a
basically,
resolution for a waiver which prohibits, so the waiver prohibits.
No, the waiver would, you know what it
Okay,
is.
so let's get this straight. There was a motion by who?
Me.
Scooter made the motion to
waive the 500 feet for a packaged liquor.
to adopt a resolution for a waiver of the section 6-30, which prohibits the granting of an alcohol permit to a business within 500 feet of a church. So, we're gonna waive
There's already a
the
business
500
selling
foot
alcohol
requirement.
Lauren has
there now, so.
Go ahead, Lauren.
Okay, to authorize and approve the waiver request for a chapter 6 alcoholic beverages, section 6-30B, contents of application, location of business, to 9003 Lockhart Road to obtain a beer class B and whiskey permit from the parish of Livingston.
Okay, so there's a motion by Scooter King and a second by Randy DeLapp. Is there any more people that are here that'd like to talk about it?
I have a question. If this passes.
Well, you know, you're supposed to raise your hand, come on up. You gotta
It
follow.
only applies to this one thing.
But
That's
what
what
I'm
you-
asking, David
Don't forget to
Smith
state the
again,
name and the address.
9295 North Street. My question is, if this passes, does everything else fall in place that they can build a store? Because I have
understand
a
that question.
problem.
What did you say?
In other words, if he gets his alcohol waiver,
Uh-huh.
does the store go ahead and start getting built?
No.
Or is there
No,
other
he's
things
got
that
to
go
do
in?
preliminary
Everything.
plat.
Good enough.
Yes,
I'll
sir.
come back.
He gotta sell the property first.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of other
So
stuff.
to be clear,
Okay, so, we got that question answered. Where we at on
This
this? We
is
got a
for-
motion, we got the
This is for this
we
address.
got
I
the
got it.
verbiage of the motion. The motion was made by John,
No.
Scooter, and it was seconded by Randy. Is anybody else want to talk about this?
real quick,
Go ahead, Tracy.
I'm gonna be okay with this only because the church says they don't care.
And I was gonna say that same thing. The church signed a letter of no objection, is why I'm okay with this. So, does anybody else want to say anything?
No, that's wrong.
Well, I'm gonna say this much. I'm going to vote against it for a simple reason. Since 1980, whenever I was on a jury, up to now, I've never voted for a waiver for alcohol.
That was 40 years ago.
Well, then we.
Prohibition.
Yeah, they don't know. You know they started making something since the Model A, right? I mean, I just want to get this straight.
That's the problem with the world today, though.
Okay, so let's
All right,
call
so
for the
let's go
vote.
ahead and call for the vote here.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Deland?
Yes.
Mr. McMorris?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
No.
Mr. Girlinghouse?
Yes.
Mr. Ard?
No.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Talbot?
Yes.
Mr. Mack?
He been riding the fence
Yes.
a lot lately.
All right.
Motion passes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
You
One,
can-
25, this is board reappointments.
Sorry you had to wait so long.
25A is Carter Plantation. Randy, this is in Randy's district.
Yeah. I don't see the names.
I don't see it either.
Yeah, come on, why'd you bring it up for me?
Yeah, here it is, 25A, it's in there.
Where you sent that name.
No, the rest of it. 25A? I got
So
it.
everybody's expired.
Yeah, everybody's expired. Do we do them all at one time? or-
Yeah.
No, wait a minute. I got one I'm not replacing.
Okay.
I mean, I am replacing. I'm gonna do it first. I want to make a motion to replace Michael Semino with Ronnie Morris. Yeah, from Springfield. Can I get a second?
Yeah, second.
Man, I thought he was already on the board.
Is that D. Ronnie Morris?
Okay.
So that's, we got to,
Hold on, we're gonna get everybody. Okay, so there's a motion on the floor by Randy Delat to replace Dale Conda.
No,
with
no, no, no.
Ronnie Mon-
Replace-
no, Michael Semino.
Michael Semino.
Michael Semino with Ronnie Morris.
Correct.
Okay. And reappoint the other 4 board members.
Reappoint Dale with John Mungerty. How do you say that?
John Mundinger.
Mundinger. Dale moved off.
So Mundinger's on there till his term expires. You reappointing him?
Yes.
Right here in the yellow.
They all expired in October.
Okay, is Ricky staying on there?
Yeah, everybody else is staying on.
So Gillis stays, Maurice Wells stays, Ricky Juba stays, John Mundinger stays, and Michael Semino is replaced with Ronnie Morris.
That's correct.
That's your motion?
That's my motion.
You got a second?
Okay, y'all got that? Okay, motion, second by Tracy. What did you say? What did you say, Angie? Okay, we got somebody that would like to talk about this. Come on up, state name, address, all that wonderful, beautiful stuff.
My name is Michael Semino. I am the current secretary of the Board of Supervisors of Carter Plantation Community Development District. And I just wanted to say that while I think Ronnie Morris is a wonderful individual and do a good job on the board, according to the way the board was set up, the board members are supposed to be electors from the Carter Plantation Community Development District. Mr. Morris lives very close to the district. He does own property in the district, but he does not live in the district. So to me, that needs to be taken care of one way or another. That's my only comment.
It's a great comment. Do we have the ordinance? I didn't read interpret the ordinance that way. Mr. Gillis Wyndham lives in the town of Killian, is the mayor there, has the address there, and he doesn't live there. Has been serving as president since it's been started. I didn't interpret the ordinance to say you have to be a member there. He does own property there.
I thought you had to be a property owner. That
Yeah.
was my interpretation.
Yeah. I didn't read it.
Whatever you want to do, Randy, it's your thing.
I'll go with the motion.
Yeah. And I guess if there's any
I'll second that.
if there's a future challenge,
Well, I
then
second
they need to
Deal with it.
escalate that,
If
and then I guess
if
we'll address that then.
If it's wrong, it's been wrong since it's been
Yep,
started, like I
yep.
said, get us rid of it.
Okay, so you have the verbiage of the motion that he made. Tracy Girlinghouse seconded it. Is there any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Anybody oppose that? Nobody? All right. Agenda item B. This is Fire Protection District number 1. This is my district. Okay, what we need to do here is just ratify a couple of board members. These are appointments by the Albany board, and so I need a motion to ratify these
I'll
two
make a
board
motion
members.
to ratify.
Rodney Russell and Darren Cunningham. Got a motion by Gary Talbert, second by Tracy Girlinghouse. Any discussion? All in favor? Anybody opposed? Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. 25C, this is Fire Protection District number 11. This is North Albany. Board members expired here.
I didn't know it was big enough to have a south and a north. That's amazing.
I think 30 miles long.
That's what that railroad is.
Okay. Okay, so it's to my understanding that the board members' term has expired, every single one of them, and that they're going to be automatically rolled over until they're either reappointed or replaced. Okay, so Mr. Charles, we're just going to leave on there and let it roll over until he's reappointed or replaced, so we don't want to take any action on Mr. Charles Whidden. Jane Duffy Sullivan, would like to reappoint her to the board for the length of time that, of the term.
The 2 year
Yeah,
reappointment.
I guess it's 2.
2 years.
Mr. Raymond Addison, same thing. I'd like to reappoint him, okay? Mr. Sam, we're just gonna roll that over until he can be either reappointed or replaced. And then Mr. Don Kinchin, I would like to reappoint him, okay? So, need a motion on the floor to reappoint Jane Duffy Sullivan, Raymond Addison, and Don Kinchin to the Fire District 11 board. Got a motion by Gary Talbert, second by Bubba, R.C. Bubba Harris. No discussion, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No? Good. This is Gravity Drainage District number 2. This is Gary Talbert's district. We're gonna let him talk about this.
Mr. Beverly Timms, who was the founding member of the Gravity Drainage District, resigned, and then unresigned, and then resigned again. I think he's just, and his term has expired, so we don't really have to accept his resignation, but he is a founding member, and he's done a great thing for Watson and served the community well, just as we had talked about Mr. Kemp. Mr. Charles was one of the founding members, a few weeks ago when we replaced him. I want to defer this appointment right now. We have asked for an Attorney General's opinion. They have yet to give a complete opinion. The person that we wanted to appoint asked about dual office holding. They did tell us that they had approved a police jury employee to be on a Gravity Drainage District, but they wouldn't, without research, write an opinion on a parish council employee in a Gravity Drainage District.
Just appoint them and then.
We're gonna get the opinion in hand, and after we get the opinion in hand, we'll make sure we don't have a dual office holder problem, and then we'll make the appointment then. They're almost positive it's okay, but they're not, they won't give the opinion, so we're gonna defer this to
You
December
agree with
30th.
that, Chris?
Sounds like a good
That's
idea
what
to
we
me,
need
Gary.
do. I mean, I think.
It's a
We
dual
get our ducks in a row,
office
makes
holder
sense.
thing. They made the request, they filled out all the forms, they're just waiting. And they emailed me the opinion today on the police jury, but they said they can't guarantee that the council opinion will be the same.
That'll be the safest thing.
So we're gonna defer till the 30th. But I do want to take this I want this council to acknowledge Mr. Beverly Timms and the great work he's done in the community of Watson for Gravity 2.
I agree.
So acknowledged.
I agree. Okay, so,
Okay.
so you're not doing anything, we're gonna defer that to the third, or, yeah, okay.
Appreciate y'all. 26A, committee reports. Ordinance committee, do we have a report?
Unfortunately, I was unable to attend the meeting, so,
Gary's co-chair, he can say something.
Ordinance committee met Tuesday night. We discussed two things. We discussed the litter ordinance and what it did with respect, how it parallels state law. And, we discussed the drainage impact study and how it probably has some deficiencies in it. If y'all remember, a few years ago, we amended that, we went from 10-year to 25-year, made them do a 100-year look upstream and downstream. We need to identify how far we're gonna go. We've got to figure out, we've got to define what the upstream and downstream is, because basically they're bound to the property lines. We also probably need to address the condition of the ditch and/or canal that they drain into. I was sitting in a meeting Monday, and I was told that or Tuesday morning, I was told that we drained this ditch as a fail anyway. And I'm like, what do you mean it's a fail? Well, it doesn't handle the water it's coming to now, so they designed this thing to not increase the CFS. The CFS is the same, so the peak water level will remain the same, except because we're running it through a retention pond with 100 year storage. What used to flood for 30 minutes now floods for 5 or 6 hours. And so we need to address whether we're gonna let people drain into a ditch that's not capable. And I think that's where Mr. McMorrison came and talked to us about all the issues he's got on Hammock Road and that development around there. They're all draining into the same canal, so we're meeting the ordinance by definition, and we're not increasing the static water level at peak. But we got a canal that can't handle what we're putting in it, so, even though we don't increase static water level, we're making it a fail for a much longer period of time. And so we need to address those things and either create an ability for the developer to go improve the downstream and upstream capabilities so that there is no negative impact, or something, because we cannot continue to let development go in this parish and continue to put water into waterways that aren't capable of handling the water they currently have.
Upgrading those waterways.
And so it was just a preliminary discussion for us to be thinking about problems, and we're gonna talk to Mr. Chris about it, because if a developer wants to go downstream and work on something, and then somebody says, oh, I don't want you to fix the drainage through my property, can they in essence hold up? The state says that there's 100-foot right of way on both sides of a drain, but we have never typically as a parish utilized that capability. So we need some guidance on some of that stuff.
Look at it.
So one thing in that area down that way, there's no drainage district. So
There's no funding there.
no funded drainage.
Correct.
We don't know who owns the
Well,
ditch.
the beginning of it over by Danny Paylane's on Hammock, we get that one cleans it, but then it runs into 7 or whatever, and it just stops.
But ultimately, Bubba, the way the ordinance is written now, and I guess I'm gonna tell you, I was naive until it was pointed out to me Tuesday at this meeting Tuesday morning, is that it doesn't matter where it can drain into a ditch that's not capable of taking the water, as long as we don't make the water leave any faster a rate than it was going there before. So we can, this particular development, the water was leaving at 10 CFS. After the development, the water's gonna leave at 37 CFS. So because the ditch was a fail, they designed the retention pond to handle a 100-year storm. And so it's still gonna leave at 10 CFS, but basically what you look at now is you walk out there is a 36-inch culvert leaving this retention pond, draining into a ditch, and the first culvert it hits is 12 inches.
Gary's right, man. There's a lot of modifications that need to happen. One of the things I noticed after he brought it to our attention was that a lot of the things in there, it says determine this, determine this, determine this, determine this, but it doesn't say anything about if you determine this and this is a negative impact, take this action.
What do you do now? Yeah.
They just
determine it. Just
determine it.
So just get it on that paper so we'll know that.
And the parish review engineer is willing to work with us to help us fix it.
Yeah, Morgan understands.
It's going to be an awesome thing, and it was a very good thing to.
Okay.
initiate that change. How about that? Okay, financial,
I think we went over finance
We did.
right with Jennifer, so, we good.
pretty excited and happy to see $8 million go to overlaying roads in Livingston Parish. And you can thank the people of Livingston Parish because they passed the 1% sales
Okay,
tax.
so
Okay,
I do
so
have a
anybody else want to say
We
anything?
got
Council
councilman
comments,
comments.
yes.
Oh, District Attorney's report, I forgot
Oh,
about
okay,
that.
go ahead.
What do you think?
Councilman comments, do we
I
want to
got
start on one side or the other? Just go, just go, Bubba.
Two
All right.
things. Where's-
What I want to do is I want to bring up and thank everyone that helped with the trunk or treat. We had a
It was a great
fantastic
night, yep.
turnout. And, Mr. King, Mr. Talbot, and Mr. Backmorris was there. And they saw how many people went through there.
we gave out candy for a solid hour and 45 minutes. I didn't think the line would ever go away.
I've never seen the line that long.
No,
That's
The
awesome.
kids were happy to get out and go do something normal.
that's right.
That is great that
And
we
we all
were
got
able to
COVID.
do that. We had a big turnout out there at the Albany Bethlehem Baptist Church too. Go ahead, Randy.
Animal control meeting Wednesday at 6 o'clock. And also, I'm gonna just make a statement. I know I have no support for this, guys, but I'm one of those guys that think we ought to bind the money and blacktop all the roads now.
It ain't happening.
Listen,
No way.
let me tell you
Oh,
what.
no, I'm not with you on that, Randy.
I know, but if y'all would ever listen to it out.
No,
No way.
maybe
That ain't on
interested
the
in
agenda.
doing a portion at some point.
No
We'll look
way.
at it, Randy.
But the reason why we ought to do that is you get bigger contractors and you getting your material now is cheaper now than what it's gonna be 15 years down the road.
I understand.
Yeah,
We
but
actually-
15 years down the road.
Yeah,
that's
but
now.
I'm just trying to look, I'm just trying to figure
All
out
your
when
money's
the,
going to
I'm
administration
just
now.
I'm just trying to figure out when the new Green Deal kicks in,
We might-
what we gonna overlay the darn roads with.
Hey,
Cow manure.
$5 million a year on administration costs on that road tax.
I'll tell you this.
Figure that out, time 15
Wait,
years.
say that again?
I'll be willing to.
$5 million a
see if you
year,
convince
time
the parish
15 years
president
is how much?
If you
That's
can,
a lot.
if you
Yeah.
can convince the parish president to do it, I'm not gonna say I'll do it, but I'll listen.
Where the past president wouldn't have a vote.
Yeah, but he would on the back end.
I want to try, I want to at least try this pay-as-you-go plan.
No.
Well, Shane,
Absolutely.
it's
Hey,
not a problem if we were to bond out a portion of our
Correct.
money. But if you do the whole dang thing, then
I would
you're screwed.
bond out a project.
Well, a list
A
of projects.
No, a project. And
Wait, you talking about new construction type.
I want to
projects.
decide every year,
Yeah,
take the money we
like-
got and decide what needs to be done.
Okay, so
with it.
I got, somebody got to help me, because I came in on the back end of the meeting. You know, we technically are working on the 2020 road program, of which we had a list of roads that we agreed to do. That money's not gonna get all spent in 2020, so I wanna make sure that the $8 million that's allocated in 21 is all new money. It's not the money that, I wanna make sure that it's not rollover money from 2020. And we need to figure that out. We need to know that
That's a good question.
that's not rollover money, because we're not gonna get finished with the 2020 road program in 2020. And so we allocated, what, $4 or $5 million in 2020. So I wanna make sure that $8 million is not rollover money left over from 2020.
I want to see
I want to
in
make sure
there,
too, because my roads hadn't been paid.
well, I want to see in there where the $1 million for Juba North that they promised you was happening is in this budget. Because if not, I'm amending it next week, 3 weeks.
Well, the
It's a
problem
good
is,
question. Jennifer was very cooperative,
the problem is Newman,
helpful
Newman
tonight, so
North,
let's just ask those questions.
Juba North is a capital outlay, and there's no
They
money
said they
in
don't-
capital outlay.
Oh, she said we can put all the water in there.
Okay, so any more
Yes,
councilman
real
comments?
quick. No,
Jeff
real
R.
Right, Jeff.
I did, me and Tracy went and handed out the awards to the All Girls basketball team for their state championship. They had an awesome turnout there for that. And I don't know if everybody knows this, and I should have said it before Mr. Billy Taylor left, but Miss Sydney Taylor wound up taking 4th in Miss Teen USA. She represented the state and our parish extremely well.
Yep.
And I will make sure and get her here.
And one other thing, real quick, I
she
want everybody to understand that Live Oak High School is the 5A football champ of Livingston Parish.
Well, yeah, I saw that.
Wait, repeat that.
A block,
What did you
a
say?
block field goal.
Live Oak High School is the 5A football champ of Livingston Parish.
All right. Uh-oh,
How do you
Seymour.
determine that?
They beat Walker and Denver.
Okay.
So Satsuma, just a little heads up, Satsuma Road's coming to a close now on, they're probably about 85%. Laying, the asphalt's going well, it's almost finished. Just the side part's gotta be done, so you guys did a great job. So just wanna bring it up.
All right, cool.
All right, that's awesome. A motion to adjourn by Jeff Ard, second by Tracy Gerlinghouse. John actually wanted to do that. All in favor? Aye.
Well, we have.
Hey, good job, guys.